then my place
Mm.
Manhattan. But yeah, trying to get out of the city after 20 years.
I'm looking forward to getting out the city eventually.
Yeah.
I've
Good
been to
luck to
Oklahoma. I've been to Oklahoma. Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Yes,
Really?
I've been to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I loved it.
Where
Um,
in Oklahoma? Oklahoma City or more broad
Tulsa,
beyond
Tulsa,
Tulsa? Okay. Oh wow. What brought you to Oklahoma?
a woman.
Oh, and now you're back.
And I also see Texas.
In Texas. Oh,
Yes,
really?
downtown Houston.
Okay.
So I seen that too. It wasn't what I expected. Um,
Why is that?
um, I expected more. I expected people to be country, but not as country as stereotypical country people are, and it's basically what they were. Stereotypical country people, which is I'm not saying it's a bad thing. 'Cause I met a lot of good people. It's just like it wasn't. I expected more of Texas culture, but I didn't get that. No, it's like me being out here in Brooklyn somewhere. Um,
Yeah, well, that's true because I used to go to Houston a lot for business, and it's a city like New York, but it's just sprawling. And there's a lot of oil and gas money. So you find a lot of people, you know, in corporate America in Texas and Houston. Same with Dallas, you know. It's all highways, man. It's like ah, you know.
That's fashion is different. It's like they don't care about fashion. Everybody was just dressing regular clothes, and I was so elaborate. People kept asking me where I was from because the way I was dressed, the way I wore my hat. They just amazed about me, and I was very. As I was saying, I was just, was very awkward. It was very awkward at some points. I was
Oh,
uncomfortable.
found
I
it.
was uncomfortable at some points. I didn't have a car, so I couldn't get away. So that was the thing. So if I ever go back, I must have a car. Um,
Yeah.
Other than that, I loved it. I would love to go back. I just gotta have a car when I go back.
Yeah, it's hard. Like once because obviously we're New Yorkers. We realize how you can get around without I've never owned a car for until now, today. I mean, I moved back to Connecticut, but realizing you can get around in the city without a car. I used to ride an electric scooter, bike, city bike, all that, and bus, subway, all that. Taxi if you needed, like with a snap of a finger. But once you get beyond New York City, as you saw yourself, it's hard. It's hard to get around with a
That's
car.
I spent the whole day in Texas because I had to wait for the Greyhound and then come to that next day. So I had to spend, I basically spent that night and plus the next whole morning and afternoon in a bus station.
That's
I got to walk around and all that. And then, like I said, I was uncomfortable. And so I wanted to leave. And like, I had money. So I'm like, okay, I'll just get another Airbnb and just do all this myself. So sightsee myself. And so I Googled Airbnb, found one, looked that up, found one, and then I looked up Uber. So Uber to the next location was like $100,
oh,
and then from
no.
the air, Uber from that house to the airport was like another $200.
No,
So
that's
I'm
even
like,
worse.
I can't leave, but it's gonna be $300. And then when I was leaving, my plane ticket, I paid for my plane ticket. I had round trip tickets, but my tickets from New York to Fort Lee, Texas, Fort Lee Airport, in Texas. But I was in Tulsa, so the girl didn't want to drive me to Texas. She like, just get another ticket in Oklahoma and take you to Texas. You know,
Oh,
fine, I'll do that. So I ended up paying $100 for a ticket for take an hour trip to Texas from Oklahoma.
oh no.
Yeah. So, but the kick is I booked the wrong day. Like,
Oh,
so I picked the right day, but it's like the wrong month or something like that. So I did
mhm.
something wrong. So I'm like, what can I do? They're like, oh, you gotta basically, you can change your ticket, no worry. That was like another $200.
Oh
So that
no.
hour ticket was $300.
Oh no.
Hour ticket. It wasn't even an hour. It was like 40 minutes.
Oh geez, that's
three
the
hundred
worst.
dollars. Yeah.
Sorry to hear.
So like I said, like worst experience, but I had fun.
That's important, and that's what travel's about. And maybe this is where we can go with the podcast because I'm a traveler, and what you're saying is the thesis of what I believe, that I think travel opens your horizons. You're getting out there to see the world, whether it's our own country or, beyond our borders. And I really think that once we kind of put ourselves outside our comfort zone, and for you and me, it's New York, right? And we start to see how people live different lives and, are the same in some ways too, and I truly believe that the more we immerse ourselves in those sort of situations, the more we could better understand what's going on in this world, and have a better understanding of one another. I think it's a beautiful thing, that a gift that we give all of ourselves. So I'm really happy you got to go to Texas and Oklahoma despite the setbacks.
Yes. Yes. All right. Let's get started.
Sure.
Welcome to the Uncomfortable Podcast. I'm here with.
I'm Sara Roccisano from Embolden Adventures.
Thank you for joining us. You want to tell us a little about yourself?
Sure. Well, I am a world traveling, wanderlusting, spiritually transforming adventurer who's seen so many places around the world. And I'm in a little bit of a transformation of my life. As you know, we both live in New York City, and I've spent over 20 years of my life there in the city, in corporate America, on Wall Street, and everywhere else in between. And kind of hit a breaking point last year and decided to change my life, man, quit it all and kind of go in this direction of showcasing travel. So right now I'm a travel storyteller, I'm an international public speaker and an author.
Okay. How many book did you author?
I'm currently finishing my first book now, so I'm almost done, and I have two more that I'll be writing coming up.
Are you self-publishing?
I'm self-publishing.
I got a book. You want to publish my book?
Please tell me about your book.
My book is basically it's two aspects. So my main novel book is basically trying to connect all religions and myths and legends together in a human story and bring to life. And then I also want to do like a documentary type of book or a video where same thing, trying to connect all religions and myths and legends together in a coherent story and timeline.
My book is like yours. Can you believe it? I just got goosebumps. We're writing. Oh God, see the goosebumps. Writing similar books. It's all interconnected, man. That's my thesis for this book I'm writing. I completely agree with you. It's all interconnected. There's something special that's fundamentally, there that connects us all, spiritually, the adventure, the human element. For me, the book I'm writing is I got laid off. I was working downtown in Wall Street, not in Wall Street, but near Wall Street, right by Zuccotti Park in Broadway area. And I dared the universe. I said, if I get laid off, which layoffs were happening at the time, and I didn't think I was going to get hit, my friend invited me to go to the rainforest to do ayahuasca with the shamans in Peru. And at the time, I didn't think I could do it because I was working. And what happened was I got laid off. Very to my surprise, I was last on their list, kind of a last minute addition. So the universe kind of cleared a path for me to get to the rainforest in early 2020. And in doing those psychedelic ceremonies, seven with the shamans, I went from Morocco, which I was already going to do. I was going for a bachelorette party with friends who live in Queens, New York. And from Morocco, went to the rainforest and then went to Bolivia and the Andes Mountains in Peru. And then coming back to New York City in late February of 2020 when things are starting to shut down. Remember, what was it? The St. Patrick's Day parade was shut down in March. That was kind of our window of, okay, things are, starting to lock down here. So I was just coming home to all this being 5 weeks away, removed from the world, no news, no nothing, no idea what was going on. But those ceremonies and kind of seeing the world through Morocco lens, through the rainforest and through Bolivia, going to these mysterious ancient megalithic sites like where that are featured on Ancient Aliens, it was Tiwanaku and Pumapuku. And so for me, it's all interconnected. It's connected through the sacred geometry of the patterns in the mosques in Morocco. It's connected through the psychedelic visions and the kind of messages that were coming through, with the plant medicines and those ceremonies. And it was also connected in these just very curious rock structures that are like precision cut
Yes,
and
yes.
laser cut and now are kind of all in rubble from a cataclysmic event that they think may have happened in 12,000 BC. So there's something more going on than meets the eye. And I think what you and I and others are starting to think about more and more is challenging the status quo, challenging the way we think of like the day-to-day kind of existence and going deeper within ourselves, but going deeper with, just the history of the world, where things are going in the future. And I think at the end of the day, it's all interconnected. It's all connected by love and connected by understanding and through cooperation and conversation.
That's it's funny that when you look at those ancient structures from the sky, they like circuit boards or motherboards. And it's like they stone computers. If you think
It
about
could
it.
It could
Yes.
be. Part of that adventure, we were taking a ride on the plane and looking down at the Nazca lines. Are you familiar with the Nazca
Yes.
lines? Yeah, so we that's going to be part of the book as well. It's the last part of it. So we're up in the plane and we're looking at like the astronaut that's waving and the condor and the hummingbird and the spiral and all the 20 plus different designs that are in this desert in Peru in this area near Ica and this Nazca Plains it's called. And the pilot, I have this on YouTube. The pilot, after we land, he's Peruvian, and I asked him, I said, "Do you think aliens did this?" And he looked at me, he's like, 100%.
I
So, so
I
there's
don't believe they dragged something and made the designs. No,
no,
you had to have some kind of aerial view. So you had to be able to fly or something to make these, or at least be able to look up the sky. Which is possible. They could have had a giant mirror, looking up. So they could have.
it's unclear. But you're right though, like it's something from the sky because the purpose of those designs are to see it from the aerial view, very high up. And they theorize it could be a calendar or it could be like a roadmap of sorts. But you're right, because when you actually are physically on the ground there, which we were on the plane, but if you go out there, you would never know if by your feet, right? It's like these rocks and these kind of like maybe they shuffle their feet and kind of move the sand and it's been undisturbed. And then from the sky, it's a perfect design. So it's like, wait a minute. And when was this done? Thousands of years ago? What's going on here? So that's what I do. I travel and I try to see these places, from Easter Island to Stonehenge to Machu Picchu to Teotihuacan, Chichen Itza. I'd love to go to Egypt and figure out the pyramids. I know everyone scratches their heads about those,
Definitely
but
the
I
Sphinx.
it's so interesting. Go ahead.
Yes, no, definitely the Sphinx. That's what I was saying.
Say
Um,
again.
so definitely the Sphinx. The Sphinx.
The Sphinx.
Yes, definitely the Sphinx. And were you able to see the shadow of the snake? Like,
I did not when we were in Chichen Itza. I guess they only do it, it was built in such a way where it only happens on the fall equinox.
oh,
Uh, yeah, so it has to be September 21st, the way that the sun shines on it's the staircase that is very geometric, right? It's like right
yes,
angles, rectangles, and the way that the sun shines on an angle, those rectangles then become scales of a
yeah,
snake that goes down, and then the head of the snake is at the base of the opening of the stairs.
yes. Yeah, I didn't know it was only one time a year. I thought it was like every night. So my first question for you today is: have you seen the video or like the TikToks that they saying like the six places you could visit or the 15 places you could visit instead of buying an iPhone 15 Pro?
I have not seen it, but I love the message because I agree with that. That I think it's worth more to spend on yourself for experiences than gadgets and TVs, for instance. Is that what the TikTok video
It,
is
it,
about?
Basically, that you don't need to buy this. You could go travel and get some, like you said, experience, culture, food, instead of having a device that you already got a device that do the same exact thing, and all they did was change the camera.
It's amazing. I mean, you got it right. And so I heard your story before we started recording about, the mishaps of travel and around Texas and Oklahoma. And, one thing I'd like to recommend, people say, "Oh, well, travel, oh, it's so expensive, I can't." There's that mindset of I can't. I don't know how, I'm scared, I can't afford it, whatever. And yeah, those are real concerns and considerations. I 100% agree. I will say though that there's ways around it. And in the case of, let's say, planes, if you have a credit card, there's a particular credit card I use, which is a Chase Sapphire credit card. And if you sign up for it, they have really great travel programs. So for every dollar you spend, let's say you charge your Con Ed bill, right? Or whatever else you're doing for your bills that you could put on credit card, those points start to accumulate and they could double and triple up. And they have a program where you can go, use those rewards and apply it like for plane tickets. So I've flown to Africa twice on points, and then once you get out there to, let's say, Southeast Asia or Africa somewhere, other places in South America, it's very affordable. Like it's very affordable compared to what you would spend going to Vegas or like the resort fees that they charge in Florida, and the hotels are so expensive in the United States. Car rentals, we just talked about that, or buses, right? It's expensive in the United States, but once you get beyond the plane, which you can fund on points, you don't even have to pay it in full points. You could pay half in cash and half in points. But once you get out there, it's very affordable and it's beautiful and it's different. It's not your traditional, typical American experience. And you learn so much. The people are kind. The places you see are ancient. The food, as you mentioned, is different. You and I are lucky because we live in New York City. We can go to Queens, we can go anywhere where the food is authentic from cultures around the world, right? Queens is a great representation of diversity from people who, are new to America. And you can get, Nepal food and, Jackson's Heights. You can get Colombian food, Thai food. You can get Ethiopian food in New York City. There's so much at your fingertips. But once you get there beyond New York and you see that, real in the flesh, it's amazing. And I highly recommend, if anyone has an opportunity in their life to take a trip beyond their comfort zone, then please do it. If it works in your favor, I highly recommend it.
How do you feel about street vendors? I see that you've seen about 40 different countries. So street vendors, especially like in India, like they don't wear gloves, and like I seen people spitting food. I seen crazy videos on TikTok of street vendors. How do you deal with those type of people, and how do you feel about it? And what's your opinion?
Yeah, so when you're traveling, you start to get a little smart sometimes about like what you won't or won't do. And sometimes they warn you, like, don't drink the water, right? Like Montezuma's Revenge in Mexico. Don't drink the water. It's going to make you sick because there's bacteria in there, that the people locally have gotten used to, but you being from another country have not. So, there's certain things you get smart about, like don't drink the water. And that also means don't brush your teeth with it. So take a water bottle and use it, or maybe, boil the water and use it to brush your teeth. But for street vendors, same thing. Like when we were in India, we were warned, don't eat the food. And it's not because they're, spitting in the food or whatever they're doing that's nefarious. It's just because of the bacteria. Even like fruit, for instance, could have, if it was washed, it has the water, the bacteria from that local water, and that could get you sick. So it's those sort of things that you have to be smart about, like, make sure it's cooked. Make sure there's no ice cubes in your water that you got from the restaurant, for instance. Things like that you start to get smart about. It's just really the bacterias that are different. But if people are spitting in it and you're like, wait, that's not gonna work for me, then just say no, thank you. I'm gonna go to the next, vendor. Maybe I'll go to the store instead or a restaurant rather than local food.
I seen one video where the guy actually put gloves on. He's very tidy and neat with his. I think they's doing sugar cane juice or something like that.
Okay.
That's what he's making, and he used a glove and everything. That's the only video I ever seen. Um,
They They do that. It's called a haka, I think it's called, in Singapore. So Singapore is an interesting country. We went to visit. My friend used to live there, and it's like New York City in a lot of ways. It's like the tall buildings and like the concrete streets and sidewalks and all. But it's very hot and humid. So people are wearing like collared white shirts you'll see like on Park Avenue by the buildings where the banks are. But they're sweating because it's so hot and there's like massive, thunderstorms that happen at 4 o'clock in the evening because it's a tropical place. But literally right next to those buildings are the hakas, which are these little markets. And they're markets during the day, but they're also in the evening. And they hustle bustle. And you have all these vendors. And one in particular was that the sugar cane. The guy takes the sugar cane and he puts it through a vise, similar to like these
Yes,
Italian ladies who like make pasta with a vise that like, you
yes,
kind of crank it and they
yes.
put it through and like all the fibers of that sugar cane like stay back, but then the actual juice comes out and they put it into a cup and whatever else they put in there, what other sort of juices and stuff, and they hand it to you and off to the office you go with the sugar cane juice.
The 15 places that was in that video. So the title is 6 places to travel on the same budget as an iPhone 15 Pro. Dubai is number one. Okay. Um, Vietnam and Cambodia is number two. Turkey is number three. Singapore is number four. Island holidays. I don't know what that is. Maybe you can explain it to me. It's number five. Um, European countries. It's number six. It's not Pacific. And which ones? Um, I do say Bulgaria here. And that's it. What do you think about those countries?
Well, I've been to a few and I have not been to a few others. So I'm not sure what the one you asked me about. I didn't hear what it was. Allen Destinations, is that what it was?
It says island holidays. It says change for every day. Mundane work scenario with the island holiday tour package. The Azure blue waters, beaches. I don't say exactly the location. Um, Maldives. It says Maldives.
Okay.
Bali. Um, Mortis. I don't never heard of that one before.
Mauritius, Mauritius,
Yeah, Mauritius.
Mauritius. Yeah, Mauritius is off the coast, the eastern coast, southeastern coast of Africa.
Okay.
Mauritius. It's sort of near the Maldives. It's the Indian Ocean. Beautiful area from what I've seen. I've never been there.
And the European countries are Austria, Bulgaria, COTA, Croatia,
Croatia.
Croatia, and those are European countries.
Beautiful. Well, I'd like to go to all of them if I could. I haven't, but that sounds amazing. You mentioned Dubai, that's in the UAE. That was pretty cool. I went there. And then Abu Dhabi is another emirate. So the UAE is the United Arab Emirates, and they consist of 7 different emirates. And Dubai is one, and Abu Dhabi is the other. And so we got to do actually 3 emirates. We went to Sharjah as well, which is a third emirate. And I got to meet my twin in Abu Dhabi.
Look alike.
We look alike. Yeah, I put it up on my blog at emboldenadventures.com. So what happened was my mother saw an article in the New York Times and there was a picture of this woman, wearing a headscarf and she was in a classroom. And the article was about how NYU and other sort of, American universities were start setting up campuses in the UAE, in Dubai and in Abu Dhabi. And why that's advantageous for these universities is because if you are Emirati, which is the local people of the Emirates, you get free education. The government pays for your education for free. They pay for a lot of things, actually. If you get married, they pay for your down payment on your house. Like, there's a lot of benefits to being Emirati in the Emirates. And so for these people, they get to go to school and they get to go to university at NYU and elsewhere. So the article was about that, and this woman was in the classroom, looked just like me. My mother did a double take. She's like, "This is you." And I had that cut out in the newspaper and I had it. I thought it was kind of cute. But we found our way to Jordan in the Middle East because my friends were getting married there. My friend is he's Palestinian, he's Jordanian, and so he had his wedding there in Jordan, which was a beautiful experience. But our flight from New York was a layover in Dubai. So we decided to spend some time touring Dubai and then I had an aha. I was like, well, maybe I can meet my twin in Abu Dhabi. It's only a 45-minute drive, it's the desert, you just keep driving. And I found her on social media, and sure enough, she accepted my invitation for coffee. And we met. We met for lunch at this traditional Emirati restaurant near this Grand Mosque, Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque. And if you look that up, it's a beautiful white mosque. It's like white marble, and it's has all this inlay of semi-precious, I guess, minerals. Yes, thank you. Colors, greens and reds, and all this beautiful, design work. And so we went to the mosque, we saw her for lunch, and then she took us to the racetrack, that Formula One racetrack in Abu Dhabi. So we got to do a little tour there and saw a little bit of and she was just a joy. She was so friendly. And again, we looked alike. It was pretty cool. So this is an example that I'm talking about like meeting people from around the world. And, I think we spent maybe 3 hours together, but it was such an extraordinary experience. And the more we chatted, the more I realized, wow, she's been to New York before. Had we known each other, we could have hung out when she came to see the city. And she speaks English really well, and she's, well educated, and she was just a joy, a very nice person. All because we looked alike and I saw her in the newspaper. But that got me to see Abu Dhabi, while we were in Dubai. So it was a cool experience, I have to say.
They do say we all got somebody that look like us, all got a look alike or doppelganger. And that concept came from somewhere. Doppelgangers didn't come out of nowhere. That word came from somewhere.
I
Um,
agree.
what do you feel about like the culture? Like you see a lot of videos on TikTok and Instagram of like people in Dubai getting like arrested, like for, like bumping somebody or yelling at somebody. How do you feel about that? And then you have
Yeah.
like,
So when you travel, again, it's not like rainbows and sunshine, right? It's not like, oh, look how great everything is, because some influencers try to show it to you from your camera. There's a lot of things you got to be smart about. And, we talked about food, right? The water, brushing your teeth, things about that. Safety generally. I mean, we're New Yorkers, we know how to be street smart. And it's interesting because when I was in Rio, I felt very unsafe in Rio. But because I had my street smart, you keep your eyes in the back of your head, you keep your bag to yourself, you keep your camera and your phone out of, grab reach, and you just stay vigilant, right? You stay tough, okay? So I think, when you go to countries like the United Arab Emirates with Dubai, there are rules in certain countries, especially like if you go to mosques, for instance, or even cathedrals like Catholic churches. There are also rules about decorum and, being dressed down, right? You want to cover yourself. So I'm of the view of respecting the local customs. You're a guest in their country, right? And there's almost like an understanding of there's no point in kind of breaking rules, because you're a guest. And you could be thrown in jail in these instances. And, then the United States has to come and save you in some instances. And that's something you don't want, you should avoid. So I'm not sure what you're referring to specifically on TikTok, what these people were doing to get themselves arrested. But I would just, caution people to just play it cool and respect the rules and kind of go on your merry way. There are it's not as, I think, draconian in certain countries than we may think it is draconian. There are liberties, and you can, drive around and sightsee. I mean, tourism, I think the statistic is 8% of the world economy is travel, right? That's a huge number, 8% of all the world's economy, right? Tourism is big business for people. And I think in the case of Saudi Arabia, you're seeing this. Of all countries, Saudi Arabia, right? Known for not being the most liberal of countries in terms of women's rights and protections. But Saudi Arabia is understanding that their oil revenues are going to start to dwindle, and they need to diversify their economy, and they're doing that. They're doing it in multiple ways through different sort of manufacturing and other sort of ways to diversify beyond oil. They're also building all these tourist attractions, and now all of a sudden women can drive in Saudi Arabia, right? So they're loosening things up because they realize they want tourists to come to their country. And in order to have tourists to come to your country, there's a little bit of a give and take, right? There's an understanding that there are going to be different people coming here, and we're going to have to learn to work together. So it's a two-way street. One way is let's be respectful, but the other way is let's respect. So I think it's a good thing. And we can delicately dance this as we continue to interact more and more together.
Yes. Basically the TikToks was one was a lady on the airplane and she like brushed past uh, um somebody from Dubai and basically you can't hit men or something like that. So he accused her of like hitting her. I don't like that's the story that was on there, and so she was arrested. And
Okay.
then
Ooh.
one person was yelling at her partner in public, and she was arrested. And then this wasn't in Dubai, but you remember the basketball player that got arrested in Russia for the rape pen. They gave a spy up for her. And like you said,
Oh.
America can come save you. And they gave up a spy that could do more damage that he free because he's free now for a basketball player that that people hardly watch. You know?
Well, Russia's a different example. I agree with you. Like, there is risk when you leave your country. There is risk. And we have those examples. We've heard them many, many times. It's gone throughout time. Russia's an interesting example because obviously there's political kind of problems going on. There's a war going on. It's adversarial in some ways. Um, but at the same time, certain countries have zero tolerance, like Singapore. You can't bring gum into Singapore.
Oh, then
Like, right? So it's those sort of things like, if you do your diligence, I'm glad we're having this conversation because it's a component of travel. Like there has to be an awareness of what you're getting yourself into before you step foot on a plane. And in the case of Singapore, you're not allowed to bring gum, right? Gum is a it's a big offense in Singapore. Weed is a big offense in certain countries still. So that I don't know if that was communicated through the team. Maybe the team should have did something to like ensure that we're not breaking any laws because it's a very fraught situation politically right now. I don't know if she heard that warning and still disobeyed it. I don't know what had happened. It's unfortunate it happened. But this is an example that, the rest of the country is not the United States, right? The rest of these countries do have more strict rules that, if you decide you're going to go someplace, be smart about it and do your diligence before you get on that plane.
I didn't know you couldn't chew gum in Singapore. One place in America you can't chew gum.
Where?
The U.S. Open.
Oh, is that right? In
Yes.
Queens?
If you work the U.S. Open, you can't chew gum because
Really?
if you chew gum and it falls on the floor and one of the players step on it, it stops the whole game.
Really?
Yes. They got to change their shoes and all that. Like, so you're not allowed to chew gum. You get fired for it.
Really? I could see why. Well, that's a fun fact.
I was a cook at the last U.S. Open this year.
That's cool. It's fun to go to the US Open. I mean, I've been there a handful of times. I'm not really a tennis fan, but it is nice to see it. It's cool to see, them playing and hit that ball goes so fast. What is it, like 130 miles an hour on a
Yeah,
serve or
that's
something?
a lot of
Intense.
talent. A lot of talent.
I used to
I
play
feel
I used to play fast pitch softball, and when the pitcher's mound is, I think, only 60 feet from the batter's box, and those balls go fast too. And trying to hit, I don't know if you've ever played baseball. Um, you
I
have.
think
Okay, so you know what it's like to hit fast pitches. And can you imagine like the 130 miles an hour tennis racket in that short of a distance? It's difficult. And
yes,
running to it. You don't run to the ball. The ball comes to you, but in this case, you gotta run to it. It's hard.
certain sports take a lot of talent. Tennis, soccer, football, basketball. Not really. All you gotta do is really shoot the ball. So if you shoot, if you know angles, if you're good at math, you know angles, you could be a good basketball player.
So would you say a good basketball player is also a good billiard player because of the angles?
Oh
No?
yes, definitely not definitely yes definitely because I use that on both sports like basketball. I try to use angles, try to use math, and say they pool. Like I try to like measure and to angle and to get the ball in. And like you can't be a good pool player unless you know how to do math or do angles. Because if you're just guessing, you always gonna miss.
Yeah, you're always gonna miss. It's finesse.
Okay. What was the turning point that made you walk away from your successful Wall Street career? When you say you was on Wall Street, you just worked
Well,
in the
yeah,
area.
I worked. Yeah, look, for 10 years I was a banker on Wall Street, but since then
So you
I've
was a
moved.
bank. Oh,
Say
you was
again?
a
Yeah, for a little bit, but my last job that I referenced was downtown near Wall Street. It was like 2 blocks from actual Wall Street. It was
what made you what
yeah.
made you dive into the world of adventures with Embolden Adventures?
What made me go into, well, Embolden Adventures was a passion project that I set up in 2016. And it was during the time I was out of work for 2.5 years. So I had lost my job in 2015, I believe, late 2014, early 2015. And for 2.5 years, I was looking for work in the renewable energy industry. And it was an early time, so it was harder to find a job as opposed to today. So for me, like a lot of that kind of fits and starts with job search. It was hard. I had a mortgage and I was by myself, and every job rejection I was getting one after the other. So it was kind of a dark time. And for me, an outlet, a creative outlet, was blogging and talking about travel, which is my passion. I love it. And for me, a lot of kind of my balance to kind of juggle a very challenging, difficult, stressful career that was, Wall Street prior to that. A lot of what I did was I went traveling and I went scuba diving because the power of the ocean, as you may know, it's such a beautiful, like, healing modality to be in the water and to be scuba diving. For me, it's also meditative, very zen. You're neutrally buoyant, you're floating underwater, you're looking at, sharks and manta rays, and you're observing, the coral reefs and these fish. And there's some sort of like meditative, kind of healing, consoling kind of property to that. And so for me, I wanted to communicate the beauty of travel. And that's how I started Embolden Adventures during a dark period of job search. And now, I hit kind of a wall, as I mentioned earlier before the recording. In 2022, I kind of hit a breaking point. I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I've been working for 20 years of my career, fits and starts, lots of pressure, lots of high stress. It just wasn't working. It didn't feel right anymore. And so what happened was it was just a kind of, it was a conference call that told, I heard on this conference call my job title was going away. And that just, it sounded simple, but for me, it was kind of the last tipping point. And I said, that's it. And I went on a 3-month adventure, in California and in Mexico, Teotihuacan, with the shamans, the Ruiz shamans of the Four Agreements. And then I went on to Colorado and Wyoming and South Dakota. And, that helped me kind of reevaluate that I just wasn't happy in New York anymore. I was changing. I was, kind of evolving. And that had a lot to do too with the book I'm writing. And we talked about how I went to the rainforest in early 2020 and worked with the shamans to do ayahuasca. And so that was a big eye opening for me about, really thinking what matters and who am I and reconnecting within. And so I'm growing and I'm no longer that person that I was for those 20 years. So that's what I'm doing now. I walked away from that 20-year career and I'm leveling up. And like I said, I'm an author now. My book will come out in 2024. I'm a travel storyteller and I'm an international public speaker. And there's more projects I have under the radar that I'll be happy to talk about next year when they come out.
That's good. It's very positive. I hope people take your vision to heart. Yes, I got other plans too. Not just like do podcasting. I want to do like comedy shows. Basically, any form of media I want to do. So comedy shows, cooking shows, game shows, so on. It's just take a lot of funding. This is the cheapest, thing to do is podcasting. Um, I have spent over 15 grand in equipment. Um, yeah,
Wow,
so
that's an
yes, so I'm set on that note. I just need funding to like doing a game show, giving out prizes. It's very costly, and like if especially if you don't have viewers, subscribers, and you getting revenue from your videos. So it's very risky. So I haven't done it yet, even though I can. But like it's very risky for me to try to spend a couple $1,000 trying to get a game show up and running, and I don't get no viewers.
I'm with you because I'm not sugarcoating this. I'm not making any revenue yet from my YouTube. I have 87 subscribers right now. And, social media, I mean, this is still a passion project in a lot of ways. So I'm with you. I'm agreeing with you because it's going to be hard. It's not easy, but that shouldn't deter you. And I can applaud you. I want to applaud you. That's amazing that you've taken the initiative despite what the quote success needs to look like. I got goosebumps again. You just got to try and you got to keep trying. Put your head down and keep working and let it evolve. That's what this is about, really, is, just trusting in this kind of like feeling. It's joy for you, right? You feel joyous. This is exciting. You're smiling. You're interested. That's what matters. That's it. That's all. You got to follow I got more goosebumps. Follow your joy. And then the world, it's like the Red Sea will part. The world will start to work with you if you just show the world that I want to do this. I don't know how. I don't know if I could figure it out in my puny little brain, but I know that there's a higher power that's allowing me to move forward with it because I could feel it feels right. That's why I quit. This didn't feel right anymore. New York doesn't feel right to me anymore. For you, this feels right. You're excited, you show up, you're doing, you're trying, you're getting the word out, you're connecting, you're networking, you're meeting new people. You never know what's going to happen. And I'm rooting for you. And if you have a TV show, I want to be on it. I want to play the game.
And definitely, I'll make sure I send you the first invite for the first game show.
Awesome. Hey, I'm going to be on another podcast this Friday called Epic Sages. And this guy is based in Alaska, in Fairbanks, Alaska. And it's a game show. So I think if you're willing, I'd be happy to make an introduction. He's also a Anita guest, how we met. And he does it on Discord and he has a gaming community and he opens it up as a podcast, a live podcast. So I don't know. There you go. Here's another kind of consideration. Maybe this is something you
I,
learn.
I appreciate the networking. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm happy to do it.
I realize promotion plays a lot in making videos. So on Instagram, for example, I could get 1,000 views easy. Post a video, I probably have 1,000 in probably 20 minutes.
Wow,
So
that's more than me.
yeah, I only got about probably 20 followers on Instagram. Probably got 40 on YouTube or something like that. And so I said, let me try this out. So I put $25 on one video to see how well it does. It got 4,000 views. So
Wow.
so putting money towards the videos, it do adds a lot more flair to your videos and reach more people.
Well, let's connect because I am learning a thing or two using CapCut. I'm learning a thing or two, just with all these sort of tools, templates, whether it's TikTok or Instagram. I'm happy to share what I learned, graphic software, things like that. Yeah, I mean, we could definitely talk about it offline.
It's definitely I use Canva. I use another I think it's Flex something. I use that for like editing and enhancing my videos. For
Okay.
free. There's other sites, other software like Topaz. It's an AI software
Oh,
where
really?
it turns out say you got a 720. Say you got 720 or 780 video. It could change that video into a 4K video by adding
Oh,
the pixels that's missing. It basically is the AI predicts what pixels are missing and it add them and give you a 4K bright video.
wow. That's great. Topaz it's called. I'm gonna
That's
write that down.
Topaz. Yes.
Topaz. Okay. And so Lamar,
More, yes.
More. I have another idea for you. So, you mentioned you wanted to do like speaking, right? I guess like yeah. So because I became a public speaker, I'm meeting a network here in the tri-state area, and there's this network in Stamford, Connecticut, which isn't far. You could take the Metro North, right, from 125th Street and get to Stamford. This person, he does Warm Heart Life, and he has this A to B con that he does in Stanford, and it's coming up. And he does speaker trainings, and he has an interesting network in Stanford. There's this guy, John, is one of his friends who's into video production, but he's also into like teaching about AI. And he did a presentation in Stanford about a month and a half ago. and he had like maybe 50, 60 people show up. So if you're up for it, I'm happy to make that introduction, and you could kind of explore that direction of learning how to speak, and connecting with this community in Connecticut. There's a guy who does branding. There's wellness people, metaphysical people that might be interesting for you in your book. I think you might be a good fit for this group, so I'm happy to make that introduction.
I would love that. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Any help I could get is very appreciative.
Yeah, well, we'll talk offline. You have my information, so we will definitely have a chat. But this is the name of the game now. This is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm taking those skills I learned in corporate America, Wall Street, whatever, the whole networking. If you're out of a job, you're looking for a job, you got to network. But you also network while you're, building your, Rolodex of clients, for instance, and deal opportunities. It's the same story. It's how to get out there, how to have a proposition for business, how to have an idea, how to kind of run with an idea, right? And how to like build your community, your tribe, whether it's on LinkedIn or in person or whatnot. So, you and I are kind of diving in deep in this new world of communication. It's through video now, it's through, writing, the written word, it's through spoken word, it's through TikTok, our phones. We're learning how to navigate this new world. And I think I'm trying to do it through the lens of travel, and you're trying to do it through the lens of, I guess, what
Media.
is your media in general, more media focused broadly. It's
That's
great. Keep going.
I'm just trying to stay on on the positive side. So like if I was to do a cooking show, it'd be healthy foods. It won't be nothing sweet. Put 8 sticks of butter in it. No, I wouldn't do nothing like that. It'd be stuff like five ingredients or one pan. All healthy stuff. Stuff you can do in your house yourself. And same thing with the game show. It'd be something where people could like gather and have fun. Strangers, family. Just have fun instead of like competition. Mm.
I love it. I love it. It's great. And a cooking game show that comes together. I'm gonna lose big time, but okay, I can't cook. I can cook. I don't like to cook. But I love that. That's wonderful because what did they say? Like food is really what makes us healthy, right? Unhealthy food, processed crap, these shit ingredients, sugar, right? It makes us unhealthy. It inflames us. It makes us kind of feeling uneasy. We can't get good sleep. So, that's wonderful to get the word out about just healthy mind and healthy, life and body. That's wonderful.
You've been in 42 countries, so like certain foods. Like I Coca-Cola here is different from Coca-Cola in another country, or and so other foods because they put some more stuff in it, like chicken. Like chicken in other countries, like especially Italy, is no bleach. It's not chlorine bleached. But in America, they bleach their chicken with Kleenex chicken with chlorine.
The
And
worst.
yes, so
Terrible.
like so
And you
travel.
can taste the difference. Here's an example. So my mother, we're of Italian heritage. My grandparents are from Sicily, well, both sides of the family. And so my mom is an excellent Italian cook, just from scratch. And we as a family went to Italy, to Sicily, where my grandparents used to live. We got to see their old house. And we rented a place for a week, and we, basically took our family in the United States and put it in Italy for a week just to kind of connect with our roots. And we went to the grocery store and we picked up ingredients. And my mom literally cooked the same pasta sauce she would make there, and it tasted 10 times better. And we're like, the you're the constant in this equation, right? You're the fixed variable. You're cooking the way you normally cook, but the ingredients change, and it makes a world of a difference.
Yeah, there was a video on TikTok. A couple went to Hawaii and they went to a restaurant the first night they was there, and it was crazy expensive. So they said instead of us doing that, we gonna go to the supermarket and buy our food. And we can just cook it inside the Airbnb. And they said they saved like probably $2,000 just by buying the food and eating inside
There
instead
you
of.
go. See, I mean, that's another example why travel can be cost effective, right?
Mhm.
You don't have to go to the best restaurants, the five-star whatevers, just for the Instagram picture. Forget that. You could pick up a nice little meal on the road locally or go to the grocery store. And that's the cool thing too. Like for instance, when we're in Japan and you go to those Japanese grocery stores in Tokyo, even the 7-Eleven in Tokyo, you're like, what is this? Look at all the cool things in the 7-Eleven. you know? And that's the thing. Like you can eat on the cheap when you're abroad, and you don't have to go to these fancy schmancy restaurants, and you learn how to be cost conscious when you're overseas. Absolutely. And it's fun. And
Mhm.
that's the other thing too, like when you're traveling, sometimes you're with you have local experiences. In our case, I mentioned we were in Jordan for this wedding, and we had this 10-day trip that our friends planned for us while we were in the country. And we got to go to the Wadi Rum Desert with the Bedouins who live in the desert. And they cooked for us a beautiful meal just over the fire, in the tents. And that was a cool experience. You got the stars, they're playing the oud, little like kind of stringed instrument, and we were singing, and again, very simple, but it was just joyous. And it was, fresh food, it was good for you, and it was worth it. It was so much better than going to a restaurant, I have to say.
Definitely, I believe it. You explored over 42 countries. Can you share the one place that left you the most profound impact on you and why?
Oh, most profound. All of them really, but I mean, it has to be the Peruvian rainforest, the Amazon rainforest when I was working with the shamans. That obviously was extremely profound in terms of like I had never touched a psychedelic before this. I seldom smoked weed, which is a psychedelic in its own right, and tobacco is also a psychedelic if you drink it. The mapacho tobacco that they have in the rainforest, they drink it and it's a psychedelic. But I never touched hard drugs, never. And I did the ayahuasca is known to be the most intense, the Mount Everest of psychedelics. So it's not to be done lightly. And I have many disclaimers about this. I did a YouTube series on it. It needs to be honored. It needs to be respected. It needs to be done set and setting with, the shamans, the Shibibo maestros and maestras in, the rainforest. Um, but doing all that, knowing all that, and partaking in these ceremonies, it just really shows you that there's more than meets the eye. That we live in this three-dimensional world, we're in 3D. But beyond that, there's so much more, and there's so much wisdom. It's infinite. I met God, I met Jesus, I met all these like I went Viracocha, who's the sun god, the pre-Incan sun god. I met Mama Ayahuasca, who's an embodied spirit in the vine. I saw so much. It's such a teacher. It's a healer. It helps to address your traumas. It's used a lot by Navy SEALs and other sort of people who are dealing with really difficult stuff like addictions and other sort of problems in their lives. So it's a teaching tool. It's a beautiful medicine. And for me, it changed me and it showed me that there's more to life. There's more to life, and we have to love ourselves. And we are our best champions. We have to know how we understand truth for ourselves amongst all the chatter around us, both on TV or whatever. Culturally, everyone's mad, right, these days. I mean, I don't want to laugh, but people are in trying times lately, and we're frustrated, we're polarized, we're angry at one another. Ultimately, though, it sits with us within, right? They say if you have a full cup, you can love more. And that's what this teaches you. It teaches you how to know yourself. It's a mirror and what you're willing to put up with. And so when I came home to a changing New York City. I didn't know coronavirus was happening for those 5 weeks I was away. And I was like, I left it in January. Now look what it's doing. And this doesn't, nothing makes sense right now. And why is everyone so nervous? And it was one of those things where it was just like, I need to like understand what's true for me and what makes sense for me and how do I protect number one? Because that's ultimately what we need. We need to look out for number one, which is ourselves.
Yes. This question basically the same topic. You answered most of it already, but this basically I'm looking for your perspective on it. So and I talk more about that in a second. Your upcoming book delves into your ayahuasca experience. Can you give us a sneak peek into how this psychedelic ceremony influenced your perspective on life and adventure? So you basically talked about it, but like did you have any visions? Did you go up? And also it's two different kinds, right? It's like ayahuasca and there's another one. I know one lasts like a pretty long time and one only lasts like 15 minutes, something like that.
Okay, so there's a lot there. I think you're referring to DMT, correct? When you smoke DMT?
or psilocybin,
That's
maybe it's mushroom.
15 yeah, okay, psilocybin's the mushroom. The mushroom psilocybin is the compound that makes it psychedelic. And so those are in the mushrooms. The 15-minute is the DMT if you smoke it, which I didn't do. But DMT is also found in the ayahuasca brew. It's the chacruna leaf and the vine, the ayahuasca vine that come together. And the vine, what that has is there's this MAO enzyme inhibitor. So we have this enzyme in our body called MAO. It stands for mono, I don't, it's something, it stands for something. I could look it up later. But that enzyme prevents DMT that's naturally in our bodies and naturally in our food. It's in our pineal gland, they think.
Okay,
The MAO enzyme prohibits DMT from being absorbed by the brain. And so when you take the ayahuasca vine that has this inhibitor for this enzyme, it clears the path for the DMT and the chacruna leaf to work its magic. And it only works even better with the songs of the plants, which are these icaros that the shamans sing. And it's the vibrational energies of the plants around. And they've trained since like 8 years of age in knowing how to be the medicine worker with bringing in the vibrational energies of the plants, the surrounding kind of, rainforest to work as the medicine when you ingest the ayahuasca brew. So you do see a lot, but every single time you work with it, it's a different experience. So it depends on what the medicine is there to show you. It's not the other way around. You set intentions. I intend, show me, I want to see, I want to learn, I want to understand for you. But at the end of the day, the medicine will show you what you need to see. So it could be visions, it could be the psychedelic visions, it could be a photo reel of your life. It could be meeting a demon. I mean, you never know. Some of these ceremonies are pretty intense. Like my
yes.
ceremony set was really, really intense, like very, very intense. But there's no such thing as bad trips. It's just bad you're fearful, right? It's triggering something within that needs to be unlocked and addressed. And that's why this shouldn't be taken lightly. This is something that could scare the crap out of people. And people might not be ready for this. Mushrooms are a little bit more of a gentler kind of introduction. And again, it needs to be honored. These are honored plant medicines. This isn't something, oh, we're having fun, party trick. What I do is I sage, right? I sage, I drum, I call in the good spirits, I rattle. You want to honor the medicine and set up a good kind of vessel in your kind of surrounding space, your little temple, and work with it and be gentle with it because it'll be gentle back with you. So, I would caution people. This is something if you feel called to do it, and this is something you want to learn and be introspective with self and work with the wisdom keepers. Don't just do it for fun because I don't know what's going to be in that brew, who made it, why it's here in Brooklyn, for instance. Like I would be careful. I would be really careful. But generally speaking, though, these sort of plant medicines awaken you. They unlock your consciousness. Like it starts to have you think bigger picture and lovingly more with your heart. And it helps you to understand things in a way that we can't in our day-to-day three-dimensional kind of existence.
Yeah, I think I was talking about
Peyote. Peyote. That's
cactus.
grandfather. That's grandfather. It's so peyote is a mescaline, right? It's a cactus that's sacred in the Mexican and kind of indigenous communities in like was it New Mexico, Arizona area. Yeah, I've never done peyote. It's a different experience from what I heard. It's more mellow, it's more kind of experiential. I feel like it's more like you're very calm and it's more like a you're watching a sunrise and it's like pastel colors. Like it's kind of that as I understand it. I've never done it. As I understand it, it's like you're sitting and you're kind of enjoying a beautiful pastel sunrise and you're kind of pondering about the vastness of nature. It's that kind of experience. It's a beautiful connection. It's a connection tool. Again, it's a sacred medicine.
Yeah. I had took mushrooms. Not I haven't ate them, but I had made tea with them. Pour some water, put it in there, and let it sit, soak in it for however long, and then I drink it. I just kept, like you said, I felt mellow and nothing like that. I didn't see nothing hallucinate. But when I first started smoking weed, I had a very bad trip where like I was in a trance. I was outside on 42nd Street in a trance, just walking around, and it's just like I was seeing people I shouldn't be seeing on 42nd Street, because they should be somewhere else, and that was happening. And then when I got home and went to sleep, I had I went like I had an out of body experience, and where I
Mm.
left my body, I seen my body, seen go through the roof, seen the building, and went into space. Then I went to like this world where I was inside a building. There was no stairs, everything's in a spiral. And then it was like a tall being, and I was only up to his ankle, you know. So and I landed by his feet. He gave me a book and he's like, read. But he let me giant, so he reached down, like read. And as I'm reading, I realized like what's going on. So I asked the being, were you an angel? He said yes. He shrunk down to my sides and it's like read. And the book is another language. I continue to read it, and I just came more and more aware, and like I'm dreaming, like this is real, like this, I'm in another dimension or something. I need to keep this with me and take it back. you know, and I just put it back in my body, and I couldn't remember the language. I couldn't remember what I was reading or nothing. I just remember the dream, but I don't remember what I was reading. And you're not supposed to be able to read in your dreams, because the words is jumbled. So if you like, you're not supposed to be able to see words in dreams. And so I couldn't take it back with me, and I wish I was able to, because the books was amazing. You know, but that's
That's
my destination.
That's a beautiful story. First of all, I'm wondering what you took because that sounds very different from my experiences with working with the plant. But it is a teacher tool too, and I do see visions when I sleep at night. Like I'll smoke just a little bit and then I'll go into visions. I'll see visions from weed, and I not a lot of people do. So it depends, right? It depends on how the medicine wants to work for you. I get a lot of wisdoms just kind of being mellow and kind of working with it. But what you're describing is very interesting. So a lot of where my kind of growing is happening is in between the job losses. And for the last 15 plus years, I've been in this space working with past life regression facilitators and energy healers and going around the world to these megalithic places that are so mysterious. So there's something going on, I know, I feel. And I think all of us are trying to get, we're talking more openly. There's no more stigma really attached to this. We could have an open conversation without me saying, "Oh, that's so weird. You're weird." No, it's true. It's true for you. It's true for you. And I got goosebumps again. I could feel because I've seen things too where it's just like, wait a minute, how do I explain this to like someone in the office? Like you can't, right? Like they're gonna think you're weird, man. But who cares? That's the power of what I'm saying. Number one, who cares? It's what I know, it's my truth. And good for you because a lot of work I've been doing, I've met a lot of these entities too. And my third eye opened, like I could see visions, and the visions look cartoonish, sort of like what I see in Chichen Itza, the same sort of like Mayan kind of design and the art. It's the same stuff. And like in Teotihuacan, the pyramid in Mexico, it's the same kind of psychedelic graphics I see on mushrooms.
Yes, yes,
So there is something to be said. They say that the mushroom spores can live in the universe. So if you were to like put it on a rocket ship and put the mushroom spores into like the void of the universe, the dark kind of, area of space, it survives. So the question
and
is, where did they come from? Like, did they come on an asteroid? Like, what's going on, dude? And so for me, every time I work with the psilocybin mushroom, the teacher, I see all that. I see these like electric colors that are very fine, the greens and reds and blues and yellows. But I also see these visions that are very like almost out of this world, what you would imagine. And so your description is very on point to what I've experienced, that there's intelligence beyond the physical and it's in multi dimensions. It's beyond there. And there's good energies and there's bad energies. You want to like go to the light, like you want to be on the good, not the dark. Although the dark is the paradox. You need the dark to see the light. And you almost have to experience the dark to feel, that you want to move away from it and be in the good and the warmth and the support and the love. Because what I saw from ayahuasca is we're all vibrations, they're frequencies, right? And the lower frequencies are kind of this third dimensional world. This is hate, it's anger, it's jealousy, it's shame, it's heavy. These emotions are so heavy and they're so debilitating and they're so, we believe it. We believe we're not good. We believe we're shit. We believe, I don't have opportunity. I can't be done. I can't believe that this, because we're conditioned to think this way. They're telling us this and we have to believe it. But the reality is, if we raise our vibration or if we elevate, what goes away is that heaviness. And what's the highest vibration of all is love. It's the light. When you vibe, so it's almost like, and this is what I'm writing about in my book. It's like the properties of water, right? If you have ice, right? Ice is a solid state property. And then you have liquid, which is water. It's the actual liquid of the water. And then you have water vapor, which is the gas. And the only difference between those three states of matter, well, there's a fourth state, plasma, but those three, common states of matter, the only what is maybe you could tell me what's the difference between the three? It's the same water molecule. What makes it different?
You tell me. I don't know.
Okay, I'll tell you. It's the vibrations of the particles.
Okay.
So so ice vibrates very slowly. That's why it has a lot of mass. It's very dense. It's slow vibrations, right? Water has more vibration. Gas, think of a gas molecule,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
It's high vibration, a lot of kinetic energy.
Mhm.
Okay, that's the difference. Gas is not visible
Mhm.
because you're vibrating higher. We are in a body that's vibrating lower.
Mhm.
So those entities you're meeting are in a different ether. And there's, like I said, there's love up here. That heavy energy doesn't belong up here.
Yes.
Down here in this heavy earth that we're in.
That was very informational. Like, hope the viewers take that. Um,
Yeah. Well, you just got to follow your heart. That's what it is. Follow your heart. There's no other prescription. I mean, just do what feels right for you and let the world unfold in the way it is.
how you explained that though, it was very informational. As a scuba enthusiast, can you recount a particular memorable underwater experience that you still resonate with you today?
Yes, plenty. Um, oh my goodness. Well, I talk a lot about how I met the manta ray, and I was in the Maldives. So you mentioned your TikTok list, and the Maldives is a place I went to. I went there again. You think, oh, it's so expensive. The plane ride was to Dubai and then to Malay. I think that was $1,100, which is what you'd pay more to go to Italy or whatnot, to Europe. It was, a long plane ride, but it was on a very comfortable Emirates flight. So, and then I got on a dive boat and we kind of sailed around, the waters. So we got to go to all these places that are like thousands of dollars a night, but we're on a dive boat, at a fraction of the cost. So to me, like when I say, oh, I went to the Maldives, it's like, oh no, I went to the Maldives on the cheap and relatively speaking. And so there's ways to do it. And so for me, we went diving with the manta rays. And the manta rays are in this coral reef area. These are not the oceanic, the big ones, they're kind of the smaller reef mantas. And there's a cleaning station that they like to go to in the coral reef. And what that means is they hover around, and these little fish in the coral reef like to pick off the, sort of parasites that are on the manta rays. And it's a symbiotic relationship. So they're getting cleaned and the fish are eating. And, the manta ray, when it poops, it has like a plume of like green little like particles, and the fish all eat that too. So again, it's like they work together, they depend on each other. And in this case, the mantas like our bubbles. They like the tickling kind of feeling under their belly when they go above us, and kind of just, they're like angels almost. They like hover and they're curious. They have eyes like the size of a cow. And they're just very kind of majestic almost. And here I am, never seen a manta ray before. I'm holding on to the coral reef. I have my mask and I look in its eye. I connect. I have a heart connection with this beautiful being. And I smile through my mask. You can see my eyes are crinkling, and I'm like, oh my God, it's so cool. I'm connecting with a sentient being here. It's a beautiful, beautiful experience. And I could see it crinkle its eye back to me.
Mhm.
And I just knew that it just knew me somehow. It just was a connector. Like we connect, like we're good. And that's where in my mind and my heart I felt like I had a divine connection with, whether it was God or some sort of beautiful being. And I became very overwhelmed. I was verklempt. I was crying in my mask. The tears are coming through. I couldn't breathe through my regulator. It was very, very moving. It was a very moving experience. It helped me see that there's something more here. And, I'm not very religious, but I am spiritually, strong, and I do know there's a higher power, and that to me was a moment where it showed itself to me.
Manta rays and stingrays are the same or different species?
They're different. Stingrays are different. So stingrays, I think the manta ray also has a barb. They're the same family. They're actually sharks. They come from the shark family. And a manta ray is it has these little like flaps that are like its mouth, its flaps. It has like wings, you know. But a stingray is more circular, and they stay on the floor. They hover down on the sand, and their mouth is on the bottom. Manta rays' mouths are open, and their flaps are there to like bring water in, and their eyes are to the side. Stingrays are circular. They have a bigger barb out their long tail, and their mouth is on the bottom. So what they do is they filter feed, and they're looking for crustaceans, and they're, eating the sand. They like inhale the sand, and they try to crunch whatever's in there, like crabs and stuff. So they're different, but they're from the same family that is the cousin to the shark.
Okay. Thank you for the information.
You're welcome.
Being an international public speaker, what's the most challenging but rewarding message you delivered that you feel resonated with your audience?
It's a great question. Uh, it has to be challenging yet rewarding. Um, I mean, I think like I'm still trying to figure out like what, and I'm doing it for me. At the end of the day I'm speaking from the heart, and if it's received well, that's wonderful. I think a lot of us try to conform to our audience. Well, the audience wants this, so I have to deliver on it, and that's not how I'm approaching it. I'm approaching it from, this is my story of ongoing change, and I'd love to share it and see if there's any wisdoms you can take from it. So in terms of challenging, I mean, really where I'm going with a lot of my speeches so far have been this story of transformation, like how I went from this old world and how I'm navigating this new world, and kind of that decision that's brought me there. So that's a challenge in itself. Me saying, you know what, I have no plan. I'm quitting. I gotta like just figure this out and flow. And that's what's happening. And when I decided I was gonna quit in 2022, I didn't have a plan. I just said I was gonna write a book. I didn't even know how I was gonna write the book, but, flash forward a year and a half later, here I am almost done. I've created a network of people around me. I became a public speaker as of September. There's a lot of beautiful things that are going on just because I'm taking one step at a time and letting it unfold. So that's the message. The message is predicated on the challenge that I had for myself and how I'm trying to navigate through it. It's about mindset, it's about trusting, it's about connection, it's about prioritizing what matters in life, and, healing. We're all healing.
Same thing. I didn't know what to write about when I was writing my book. So I started with my life. So basically, I started from a point in my life, probably when I was like 16, and I started telling the stories that everything that happened to me from 16 to that point where I started writing, and that's how I started. And then I was watching an interview with J. Cole, and he was on Angie Martinez, and he was talking about capitalism and how like pharmaceutical companies don't make drugs for cures. Um, then also like how companies like you were talking about iPhone earlier, how all they do is upgrade the camera or they put features from another company like Samsung that Samsung already had for years. And like, okay, we'll take that and put it in our phones now. And now our phones do this, and it's a new feature. But really, Samsung had that for years already, and it's just the capitalism. It's just make people richer. Like, there's no reason for Elon Musk to have $500 billion. Yeah. There's no reason for Jeff Bezos to have $300 billion. Like, there's people hungry out there. Like, Elon Musk could give everybody probably $1 million and still be a millionaire.
There's a lot there. There's a lot there. I mean, there's a lot there. And I don't even know where to say because, clearly I come from the capitalist world, right? I was a banker. I did $12 billion of deals that I closed. I got my MBA. I think that there's an element of importance for capitalism. However, I think we still have to have a consciousness and a love for our nature and our surroundings and our environment and for one another. So I think it's gone off the rails. And I think I'm an example of that, as we all are, because there's no job security anymore in these corporations, right? And we were told, all of us, you got to go to school, do well, get into the best schools, blah blah blah, and this is your path to success. And what does success even mean at the end of the day? I think that's what's going on right now. We're all reevaluating what's success for us, for me, for you, for the person next door. It's all different. But I think because I did renewable energy, that was my main career focus for so long. I, did solar projects and wind projects and, battery storage and electric vehicles, all that, you name it, fuel cells and advanced optimization, all these different sort of things in energy infrastructure and financing there. That's great and all, but at the end of the day, our environment still matters and our soil matters and our trees matter and our ecosystem matters and biodiversity matters and concrete does not matter. So what's the difference if you have all this money or you have no money, but our environment still is shit for both of us, right? You're doing well with communicating about the beauty of food, community, coming together, supporting one another, being strong, strong with the heart, strong with love. That to me is success. And it doesn't like what they'd say, you're gonna be in a casket and you still have all this money. Like what's the difference? Right? But did you live well? Did you treat people kindly? Did you treat yourself well, kindly in that way? Did you see the world in the way you wanted to see it? Did you accomplish things that your heart wanted you to do, not what society was telling you what to do? Right? So, for me, saying in a cubicle with the fluorescent lights and being micromanaged by a boss, that wasn't working for me, even though you could say on my resume I look stellar and I'm successful, but it wasn't good, wasn't making me happy. For what? At the end of the day, why? Who cares? What's the point? I think more to it is your self-discovery. That to me is success. And there's so many very happy people in this world that, live on pennies a day, but their environment is working for them. They're in community. They have sustenance, they have their basic needs met, and they're happy. I don't know. It's not a we aren't there's no sort of algorithm to follow to say this is how it needs to be to live a good life. In the sense of like Elon Musk, for instance. I mean, I like him. I like the guy. I think he's interesting. But generally speaking, though, do I want to be him? No. Me personally, not no none whatsoever. Do I want to be Jeff Bezos? Absolutely not.
Mm, exactly. I don't either. If I had that kind of money, I'll give it away. But I'll give it away in a positive way. Like, for example, a project, for example. The project's got probably 300 people that live inside of it. These people are creative. I would go door to door, or I'll have create a company that would go door to door, or some way on the street, some in this, and I'll offer real jobs, not something like, oh, you want a job, this and that, then it's some kind of program that you got to do for 6 months, or you got to pay them some money, nothing like that. It'd be a real experience where I'll just go to creative people, go knock on the door. How you doing, man? You got any kids? Yes. Or any of your kids over 18? Yes. Can we all have a little? Can I speak to all y'all together? Yes, sure. Have a seat. How you doing, young man? What would you like to do? Oh, I'm an artist. You're an artist. How you like for me to get you an art gallery? I'll rent this place for you. Isn't that? All the money you got to do is pass this money forward. So any money I invest in you, just pass it forward. That's all. So if I invest $10,000 in you and you make the $10,000 back plus more, that $10,000 I invest in you, pass it forward and help somebody else with their goals. It could be painting, it could be maybe they want to create a invention or something. Help them with that, and just pay you for it like that. It could be anything from say they wanted to open a restaurant, help them with that. Just when you get successful, pay it forward. And I'll do something like that if I had that kind of money. And like I said, they could do that, but they choose not to.
You could still first of all, you have a wonderful heart, Lamar. I think that's just wonderful, and it sounds like you wanna be an advisor. You wanna help people. You wanna consult and see them grow, and you wanna be a coach maybe. Maybe coach is in your future in some ways. So, you don't have to have a lot of money to that's a limiting belief. "Oh, I can't do this until I have their money." No, you could try. You could test it out. You could do it for free for now and kinda see where it goes. And then once you see that you got something going here and people are willing to pay you, then start it. Give it a shot. Have a side hustle. They say millionaires on average have 7 income streams coming in. So you don't have to be a millionaire one way. There's many ways that you bring it together and let it flow. So have that be a revenue stream. Have your game show be a revenue. Have your book be a revenue stream. Those are all different ways that you're creating because it feels good. It's coming from your heart and you're trying to help people too. You're offering opportunity for them. All boats rise. It's the abundance principle. There's
And that's my
everything. Yeah.
that's my plan because I try doing GoFundMe, like put a GoFundMe up. I like to start this program. I like people to help fund me start this program. So like one program I wanted to start was since I was doing podcasting, I went to GoFundMe to see if I can get some funding where I could like get a location, like rent a location space, buy some more equipment, fill the space up, and give young people a platform. Like say they want to do podcasts. I mean a lot of people that say, "Oh, I want to do a podcast, but I don't have the equipment." Maybe I could borrow yours and stuff like that. I
Well,
would
it sounds like you need a grant. Whether
yes,
less of GoFundMe. Maybe so we both live in New York. Well, me, I'm out the door, but we have New York at our fingertips. New York, I'm sure there's a lot of nonprofits that are offering grants for people looking to better the communities that they live in. There has to be. I mean, this feels like it's par for the course for a lot of these nonprofits, especially in New York. I would love to think that there's a grant that you can take on. I mean, you'd have to write for the grant. You'd have to demonstrate you have a plan. Doesn't have to be a perfect plan, but it's a plan. And what you just described sounds like a plan to me. Put it down on paper, have some sort of, and I could help you. I mean, I've done these things before, not grants, but I've done proposals, investment proposals. So we could talk. So again, networking. I could give you an eye on how, maybe use this word instead. Maybe, have it more compelling if you say the sentence this way. I don't know, but generally speaking, though, I think if you put your best foot forward, and it sounds like um you don't like to take no for an answer, especially given your example of knocking on doors and talking with people and trying to get people to like get motivated, right, inspired. So yeah, you're probably going to hear a no or two from these grants, but there'll be a yes if you do it, if you find the right connection, and then you get some grant money, and all of a sudden you now have a foundation to put this into action.
yeah. I followed the government website grants, and I applied for a couple. I never got none. But like I'm gonna still try. I even try to like on LinkedIn and try to hire somebody to write my grants for me, but it always fell through.
Yeah, you gotta do it it has to come from your heart. That's
Like,
where it's gonna make the impact, is if it comes from you. Yeah. But again, and we could definitely connect. We have a lot here we could talk offline and share. And if you're serious about something like that, like I'm happy to give you an eye and provide, my feedback. I don't know if mine's 100% right, but I'm happy to at least, give you a second opinion.
thank you for that.
You're welcome.
In your journey, what surprising life lesson did you learn from your natural world? Let me repeat that. In your journey, what surprising life lesson did you learn from the natural world that you apply to your daily life?
The natural work, you mean?
Yeah,
Okay, so when you say natural work, I'm gonna interpret that as
and
connecting with.
natural world. So basically, like traveling to you said you've seen rainforests, you've seen different monuments. So the natural world, um, stuff that you learn from these countries. How do you apply it to your daily life?
Yeah, great. Well, they talk about integration. A lot of these sort of transformational experiences with the psychedelics and all the others, other sort of transformational experiences. it needs to be integrated back into your life. And I didn't really understand what the word integration meant. I was like, what is this? What is this? But over time, it's starting to make sense to me because you don't want to do these experiences in vain, right? And you're okay, now I'm home, back to work. Nothing's changed. Same old rat race, hamster wheel that I'm back on again. There has to be an integration into the wisdoms you've learned abroad or with nature, wherever, beyond your comfort zone, beyond the day to day daily that you knew. Because it's like the hero's journey. Are you familiar with that book with Joseph Campbell, The Hero's Journey? Yeah, so you come back a changed person. You leave, you go through the gauntlet, there's all these challenges that you go in this circle and then you're transformed and you come back, you return home and the circle is complete, but you're transformed now. So that's the integration. Is the wisdoms you've learned, how do you now figure out how to build them into your day-to-day life so they don't go in vain and you forget? So that's, I think, the question you're asking is how have I been integrating these wisdoms from nature? And I'm doing it this way. I'm doing it by communicating. I'm doing it by showcasing more goosebumps. I'm
Mhm.
doing it by just as you want to showcase, you want to share,
Mhm.
the stories and then find a commonality. Like how can this inspire somebody else? Because it's one thing to say, yeah, this is a cool life I'm living, great. I'd like to I always kinda worry that I'm bragging, and I'm not. I try not to. I don't
Mhm.
want to. That's not my aim. I don't wanna say, "Look how great I am. Look how great I am." It's not how it is. I'd like to share it because maybe there's someone who's curious too. And again, just like what we're doing, like, I'm happy to help. I'm happy to, provide that cheerleader, like, "You could do it. This is how I figured it out. This isn't easy." There's pitfalls. It's not like, hunky dory. But if there's something in you that's curious, I'd say try it. That's why I call it Embolden Adventures, to be emboldened. And that word's on the uptick now. I hear people saying it more and more because it's about being courageous and going outside your comfort zone and going on an adventure. And it doesn't have to be like Dubai. It could be like going to New Jersey, man. you know, going to Connecticut, meeting these great people that I talked about. That's the integration piece. Is I'm trying to take this cool experiences that help me and see if I'll throw it out there if it helps someone else. But I'm also processing it. Like, and I'm doing it through writing. I'm doing it through communicating. But that process is also more wisdom. It's, oh, wow, I get it now. I appreciate this in a different way. And then you start to take on, they say, you change yourself within and then the world around you changes, right? Because that's what Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. You have to act like you've changed. And if you genuinely have changed or are changing, you find that the world around you is looking different, which is why I surrendered, which was like, I don't want to do New York anymore. It just doesn't, my vibe isn't matching it anymore because internally I'm changing. Internally, I feel like I'm growing. So I want to be in environments that support that growth and people and thought leaders and other sort of communicators like yourself, your tribe. You start to create the world around you that supports this growth. So that's the integration piece I'd like to talk about.
Yeah, you mentioned encouragement, and comfort zone. So my next question is on that. You encourage others to step out of their comfort zone. What's the most unexpected adventure you had that was outside your comfort zone? I heard you mention I think Bolivia, something like that. So you was uncomfortable with.
Oh, it was Rio in
Oh, yeah.
in Brazil. Yeah, okay. I mean, Brazil is an interesting country. Um, I didn't really like Rio very much. It felt unsafe. It didn't feel great. I mean, I'm glad I did it. Don't get me wrong, my friend lives in Brazil. Um, it's just a country that I didn't feel very safe in. And then, we both live in New York. We know how to keep our wits to us, what feels okay, I'm not gonna go down that street, doesn't feel safe for me. It doesn't, the vibe, right? It's like, ugh, I'll go here. That the whole place is like vibing, like, ugh, I don't know, like I'm not comfortable. But I still did it. I still went to the favelas. We did a tour in the favela. I still went to Ipanema and Copacabana, and we still toured like the churches and did the touristy things, but I didn't go out at night. I stayed in my hotel. Once the light, went down, I was like, that's it. I'm not putting myself at risk if I could avoid it.
Is there any other places that you felt like that?
Um, no. And I've been around the world. I mean, I've been in Arusha in Tanzania. And what's the other place? Arusha and I can't remember the name of the little city there. We climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, so Moshi town and Arusha. And I loved it. But at the same time, there's a guy standing next to the store with a machine gun, you know? And you're just like, it's fine, you know, because it felt safe. Like the guy was just protecting the jewelry store, but he's literally has a sawed-off machine gun, and you're like, hey, it's cool. It's like, hey, it's cool. So, you know, that could scare people, but because we already knew and we got acclimated and we were around friends and we were with trusted people and it was like, "Okay, that's a machine gun. Carry on," you know? So there's more than meets the eye when we travel. I think it's a feeling. It's not what the outside world is showing you that could look scary. I mean, I used to work on Park Avenue, and there's a Japanese consulate in the same building as my old office, and when the UN was in session, they were the guys standing outside with machine guns with the helmets, you know, in New York City. Like, sometimes they're in Penn Station and Grand Central. But were we scared? No, but it's the same situation. I guess they were protecting the consulate. There was some sort of threat that was happening during the UN. So it's all optics, but if it feels wrong, and it could look beautiful and still feels wrong, like in the case of Rio, you're on the beach and like, this feels no. Honor that feeling. Know to get yourself into safety.
I had a teacher once, and I think I was in seventh or eighth grade. I remember her name too, Miss Bowling. That was her name. She reminded me of Miss Frizzle from the Master School Bus. She looked just like her. um, so she went to Japan, and she she was walking across the street, and the soldiers put the guns out on her, like, and she didn't understand. So she took another step, and they raised it higher, like, back off. And one of the Japanese people ran up to her and was like, "You can't cross the street here. It's illegal. Like, you
Ooh.
gotta go this way." I don't know where she was at, and I was, like I said, I was like eighth grade, seventh grade, so I don't really have too much memory of it, but I remember that part of the story. Have you? So you said you've been to Japan, so would you have you experienced anything like that, or have you heard anything about something
Not
like
in Japan. Japan is to me, feels extremely safe. Extremely safe. I'm not sure what her situation was and why they were protecting that street. Maybe there was the emperor there. I don't know. I mean, they have an emperor. Maybe it was prime minister. I have no idea what was going on. But generally speaking, Japan's very safe. And it's interesting. I've been to Japan twice. One time we climbed Mount Fuji, which was really cool. And in our case, you know, this is why travel today is even more exciting because we have this, the iPhone or whatever, your smartphone. And for us, when we went to Japan the first time versus the second time, this phone had gotten a lot better and we had more Wi-Fi. So what
that?
I my brother did was there's Google Translate now, the app, which helps. You know, you could talk into the microphone and it talks back and you could hold it to the Japanese person and say, "Oh, I'm saying this," and they get it. So cool. You also can use Google Translate as a camera. So when you focus the camera onto Japanese letters. Like for our case, we were in their subway system, and it's much more confusing because it's like so many different lines compared to New York, and it's more you know, kind of a knot. And we're like, where are we going? Like, it's all in Japanese, literally. So you take the Google Translate camera and you highlight it, and you could try this now if you go get some different, you know, language with your phone, and it turns it into English.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. So like here you are in Japan, a safe city, a safe country, with now your tools to understand how to get around because you have a phone that works on Wi-Fi. Or if you get T-Mobile, T-Mobile actually is a excellent international service. Like Verizon doesn't work well overseas, but T-Mobile does. My brother had T-Mobile, so we didn't even need the Wi-Fi. He just had the self-service. And that's how the app worked. And we were able to get to where we needed to go, to Kyoto. We went from Tokyo to Kyoto without any help because we had the phone and we felt safe.
Wow. Do you feel Japan's safe because the guns are illegal?
I don't think so. I don't think that's the reason. I think it's safe because their community, the way they're very culturally connected. There's like you know, we in America are very individual. That's just how we are. We were these immigrants that were looking for better, right? Manifest destiny is kind of like American dream. It was predicated on the individual. Like I want to better myself and my family. We're not a cohesive culture. We're a melting pot, as we both know. So that
Mhm.
obviously inherently has conflict, and we're learning how to get along, and still to this day. In Japan, however, they're more collective. And I think a lot of Asian cultures are like this, but in particular Japan. So, the group is more important than the individual. China's like this too. So I think that has something to do with the culture of safety, because there's this inherent deep respect for one another because we're part of the culture, we're part of the whole. Whether or not you agree with that, that's your own personal opinion. But because I think that's why Japan is so safe, is because they just put an importance on making sure that everyone's cared for in some way. It's a cultural thing. And I don't know, I hope you go because it's a cool place. Like Tokyo is
No,
so cool.
I definitely want to go, and I believe you. You know, because you've been there, so you will know. And you mentioned mountains, so my next question, let's talk about mountains. Right?
All right.
Your adventure has been from ocean depths to mountain peaks. If you had to choose one environment to explore for the rest of your life, which would it be and why?
One environment. Oh, these questions. Everything. I don't want to limit. Um, I don't know. It's a toss up between the megalithic, continuing to see these like mystical places around the world that are lost in time and still, preserved in rock. That's something I'm really interested in. However, I still want to continue to scuba dive. Like underwater is such a cool place. It's like we don't, the everyday person has no idea what the underwater world is like and how important our oceans are. We talk about, the Amazon rainforest being the lungs of the earth, the trees that are there. And, we're cutting down so many trees, we're destroying our environment, our ecosystem on land, but we're also doing it very severely underwater. And the ocean are actually the lungs of the earth because all the plankton, the algae, all the different sort of green plants that are, coral, they photosynthesize. They take in oxygen, or sorry, excuse me, carbon dioxide and expel oxygen. And so the oceans are at risk because we're overfishing, especially the sharks. I don't know if you knew this, but 100 million sharks are killed a year.
I didn't know that.
100 million sharks. And why? I mean, we don't eat shark. You and I don't eat a shark. They're
Mhm.
being finned. They're being finned alive. So they'll like, and it's mainly China doing this. It's basically China doing this.
Yes.
So they fish the shark, whether it's a long line or they catch them somehow. The shark's alive. The sharks are intelligent like dogs, by the way. And they're not to be feared. Most sharks are actually pretty docile and they're afraid of you. They take the live shark and they cut the fins, all of them, off, and they throw it back in the ocean to die. And these sharks tend to live till 50 or 70 years old. Most of these sharks have not been sexually mature, so they can't procreate. So we're killing off these species at record levels just for fins, so they can make shark fin soup in China. And by killing the shark, it destroys the ecosystem balance. Same thing like the wolves in Yellowstone that they're trying to bring back now. Because once you take the apex predator out, the rest of the ecosystem starts to overpopulate. And in the case of Yellowstone, it's the deer. So the environment was being destroyed because there was too many deer, not enough wolves to patrol the deer. So the ecosystem was at risk in Yellowstone until they think they bring the wolf back. Same thing with the oceans with the sharks. The coral reef's out of balance. Why? Because then you have these secondary predators like groupers and other larger fish. Stingrays we talked about earlier, they get eaten by sharks a lot. They start to overeat the fish in the coral reef. And so now these little fish no longer exist, and those little fish act to pick the algae off the coral. They act to like regulate in more micro ways, just as birds do, to help regulate the ecosystem balance. So we're killing our sharks at record pace. And by doing that, that's destroying the balance of the ocean, which is having a hard time absorbing the carbon dioxide. So I think more and more people need to realize that as well.
Yes. Um. So, like, did you ever see Ballback?
A what?
Ballback.
A ball back? What's a ball back?
Ballback is where they got the giant stones you can't put a piece of paper through? You ever
I no, where is it located?
well, Beck is located, right now.
Well, while you're looking that up, I will say in Peru and in Easter Island, so Machu Picchu in Peru and Ollantaytambo, also in the Sacred Valley in Peru. And same thing with Sacsayhuaman in Cusco in Peru, have these massive, massive stones that they think they've quarried from
Mm,
far places, like other tops of mountains. How'd you get these massive ton stones to these locations? And they're cut in such a way with laser precision. Again, don't know how. They think it might be water or sound vibration. And there's no mortar between these stones. The perfect cuts and they perfectly align. So Ollantaytambo's like that, Machu Picchu's like that. The
yes.
pre-Inca, but they believe Machu Picchu was built on top of already pre-Incan settlement with these very curious stones. And there's power to these stones. I read about this in my book. There's a 21-sided stone that has this magnetic property that we could see our like necklace moving. We held it over and it starts to just move. The energetic, electromagnetic properties of the stone. But even Easter Island, we were at the Moais and we saw their statues and the platforms that they were on top of. It's the same kind of build. And they theorize that the people of Rapa Nui, which is Easter Island, Rapa Nui is the Polynesian name, those people are connected to the people in the Peruvian Andes Mountains. And I know that for a fact because we went to Lake Titicaca, which will be in my book. I'll talk about this, the floating islands of Uros, Uros. And these people do not look Peruvian. They, in fact, are from Polynesia. They have Polynesian lineage from way, way, way back when. And they found their way to the Andes Mountains into Lake Titicaca. So the Urus people have Polynesian blood. And the reality is that they believe in Wiracocha, which I talked about earlier, who I saw in vision during the ayahuasca ceremonies with the shamans. Wiracocha is their deity, their creator deity. And Wiracocha, they believe, came to them on a raft of serpents and taught them how to grow corn and do different sort of agricultural tricks for them to survive. He's one of the 12 elders that repopulated the earth in 12,000 BC, they believe. And Wiracocha is the same story as Kontiki. Are you
Mm,
familiar with Kontiki?
yes.
So Kontiki is a Polynesian deity. That's the same story. So Polynesia, the triangle of Polynesia is Fiji, I believe, Easter Island, and Hawaii. It creates a triangle in that area of the Pacific Ocean. So those people, their culture, there's a story of Kontiki, and they think that it's the same as Viracocha, the fable, or not even fable, they believe it as truth, as their heritage. And that's how they were populated. Their god is Viracocha. Big white beard, 12 feet tall, pale, pale, pale white skin, almost like translucent. They think he's one of the 12 elders that helped them repopulate after a cataclysmic event.
That's what I was talking about. Those same monuments. And Bobek is in Libya.
Libya. Oh, in Libya. Oh, so it's North Africa.
Libya.
Interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Same thing. Like that's all Egypt, right? That's that whole Egyptian kind of strip, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not good at maps, so I wouldn't know. You know, you're the expert.
I'm not an expert. I just like to look at maps. That's one thing I used to do as a kid. I just would, even now, my Google Maps, it's like one of my favorite apps. Where is it on the map?
um, how do you balance the spiritual aspect of your travels with the more adventurous and physical aspects?
Oh, goodness. I uh I don't know. I don't know how to answer this question because, well, I think the balance or maybe the connection between spirituality, my kind of my own path to figuring, hoping to uncover truths and wisdoms. Because I don't think we'll ever really know. It's just an ongoing discovery. So that spiritual path with adventure. I think do go hand in hand because if I'm seeking, right, adventurers are seekers, right? There's a reason why we're like, I can't sit still. I'm going to get out of here and go on a plane. You're seeking something. You want to learn, you want to grow. And I think that's like personal growth is putting challenge put forth for yourself to take advantage of, like the call for adventure. And
Mhm.
by doing so, you learn a thing or two about yourself. You learn how to be more courageous. You learn, well, I'm strong in this situation, right? Because I've had experience here. I think that's what life's about. Like we start becoming more encouraged and more confident, right? Confidence comes from experience, in my opinion, right? And if we put ourselves in situations where we're getting an experience, well, I've been there before. I recognize this before. I know it to be true. Therefore, I'm not as afraid. I'm not as fearful. I trust. I have spiritual trust now. I'm trusting in myself. Like climbing a mountain, right? In this example, we climbed Mount Fuji and we took the back way. We took the hard route, the Bear Grylls route, and it took us like 2 days. But that set us up for climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa, in Tanzania, the rooftop of Africa. And it's the highest point of all the continent. It's 19,000, I think, 500 feet. Mount Fuji is only 12,700 feet. So we still had a huge difference to continue to climb. But because we climbed Mount Fuji, we felt better prepared. Like, we still had to prepare. We still had to take it seriously and show up. I did a lot of training. I did a blog post about training in New York City for Mount Kilimanjaro. How? Because I walked everywhere. I took city bike. I did yoga. I walked across all the bridges. The bridges have that, like, if you walk up the Queensboro Bridge or the George Washington Bridge or whatever, all these Brooklyn Bridge, there's all these like ramps that are actually a little bit of an exercise. So my brother and I did 20 miles. We looked, okay, who cares what we looked like? We had camelbacks, we had water. And I wore my boots. I wore my boots that I was going to wear for the mountain because they say don't show up with brand new boots. You're going to regret it. You want to break them in. So I literally came prepared to climb Mount Kilimanjaro because I first walked 20 miles with a camelback in my boots and I did all these river bridges. So that's experience, that's adventure in my own home. And then when I get on a plane, I'm like, all right, I'm going to give it my best shot because I know I tried. I know I've had experience and I know I'm ready. Like my heart feels ready because I got this. So there's a difference in mindset now. It still was hard. It took us 8 days round trip and I didn't have a shower. And obviously I couldn't have done it by myself. We had guides and porters, and we had a huge team that helped us, and they were instrumental, unsung heroes. Cooked our food, they ported our water from the streams. They are the reason I got to the top. But I also got to the top because my heart wanted it, because my heart knew based on my experiences that I could do it. I could believe in myself and I could push through and persevere. So I think that's how it connects. Spirituality with adventure. That's how it connects.
You mentioned like spirituality and like meaning of life. Have you ever read the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
I have not, but I know a lot of people have recommended it. What is it? The answer is 42?
Yes, I see. You knew I was going with this. Yeah, the guy that wrote the book actually guessed that number. But when people break it down, it really do has a meaning. Like I think it's in like the golden ratio or pi. It's like one of the numbers of
Oh,
pi, something like that. So like it has deep meaning. Mhm.
I love it. I will read it because you have brought it up and many people have and I just haven't gotten to it. But
There's a movie. There's a movie. Watch the movie. The movie's
it's a
very
movie.
good.
Oh,
I
okay.
love the
Okay.
movie. It got most definite, if you know what that is.
Sorry, say that again.
It got most definite, if you know what that is.
Most definite. What is it? Oh,
Most
most def. Oh, I saw him. He's from Brooklyn, right? I saw him in
I think
14th.
so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he was standing next to me in Union Square. I was like, wait a minute. I think I know that guy.
I think it's
That's
like
cool.
one of his first movies he ever did.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
Um, this is my last question. So basically, I had two groups of questions. One is rival questions, and the other one is trending questions. So I have 20 rival questions. This is number 10. Um,
Okay.
so I'm gonna answer this one, then I'm gonna go to the trending questions. Then I'll let you go.
Oh, I'm enjoying this.
Embarking on an epic adventure, can you be an intimate? It's see. Let me see. What advice do you have for someone hesitant to take the first bold step into the unknown?
Oh, well, I should know this answer because this is what I want to encourage people to do. What advice to take the first step into the unknown? Well, I would imagine this person's scared. I would imagine this person isn't 100% sold on trusting in the universe. I would imagine that this person is being frustrated with the status quo right now. Like whatever is happening for them to want to even put their toe to the starting line, something is pushing them that they no longer want. They no longer want to be in the situation that they're in. It's not serving them, it's not working for them, it doesn't feel right. They want more. There's a curiosity, there's a seeking, there's a quest for better. I'm thinking that's where this person is literally ready for that first step. But they don't know where to go or how or to trust. And that's been my struggle too. And it still is my struggle. I mean, I work a lot with mindset coaches and healers and my tribe of people. We're all like supporting each other with, well, what do you know? What how do I know this to be true? How do I know how to trust? So it's an ongoing exercise. It's not an aha, that's it. Okay, I'm fixed. It's not that. It's an ongoing discovery forever. So I guess I would start with that to that person that it's going to be a journey. That first step is a first step, but you'll continue to feel it out and seek it out and discover and try and want to learn. And I just think that that person who's ready but doesn't know how to like have the courage to take that step, I just want to assure them that whatever is propelling you to want that is a calling. That's your calling. That's what a calling is. It's saying, "Hey, wake up. Time to try something new." And I know you're scared. In fact, that's what I had a mushroom ceremony. I took a hero's dose January 1st, 2022, right before I surrendered. And I saw three different entities. I saw this pre-Incan priest in Machu Picchu, a Native American and an Egyptian spirit. And this pre-Incan priest in Machu Picchu, as I saw it in vision, basically came to me and said, "It's time to step up." And I was resisting him. I was like, "No, I don't know what you're talking. Is this real? Like, this is mushroom? No." And I was resisting, but he kept saying, "It's time to step up. You got to start communicating. It's time to talk about this stuff. Time to be the communicator." And I was so like resistant. I was like, "No, no, 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 no." And I then said, "Fine, if you want me to do this, you're going to have to show me how because I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I need to do. I have no idea what you're asking me about. Just show me the way. I'm going to just surrender and just rely on the higher power to guide me." And that's essentially what this is. If you feel called to change and go on an adventure and try something new and better yourself in the ways you feel right, just dare the universe. Tell the universe, "I'm ready. You show me how because I don't know how. And bring me the people to support this, whether they're human or whatever, nature spirits, I don't know, whatever I feel I need that makes sense to me and only me, because I don't want anyone else to tell me I'm wrong." And then go one step at a time, just like climbing a mountain. It's one step at a time. You got to just keep trying. And then your experience, you just took that first step. Now you're taking another one and you're feeling this out, just like I felt out Rio as opposed to Tanzania. This feels wrong. This feels right. So it's that. It's always checking in. It's always kind of verifying for yourself. It's looking for signs. It's working with teachers. It's putting yourself out there to take the challenge. I truly think we can better ourselves in this way. We can't rely on the external to do it. We can't rely on the system. We can't rely on our community. We can't rely on the government. We got to rely on ourselves, man. Number one. That's the answer.
Yes. Thank you for that advice. I hope somebody take that to heart. So our first trending question is: how has the landscape of travel and adventure changed since your first start in Embolden Adventure? Since you first started in Embolden Adventures, especially considering recent global events.
So I think it's changed for the better because I just got off an intensive certification training with the Transformational Travel Council. And so now I'm going to be travel designer certified through the Transformational Travel Council. And I was pleasantly surprised how many people around the world, tour operators, tour designers, from Ecuador and Italy and Canada and everywhere else, New York, everyone's saying the same thing all of a sudden, that I got goosebumps. There's more to travel than just Disney World. There's more to travel than just a cruise ship. There's more to travel than just going to Vegas. There's more to travel. It's transformational. People want these experiences now. People want to start figuring out how to transform and integrate. And so the transformational travel design, certification that I'm getting is just that more and more people want experiential things rather than materialistic things. The best hotel, the best restaurant. I mean, yeah, that's fun, I suppose. I don't know. I don't really like it, but I think a lot more people are starting to say, you know what? I want to go to the ocean. I want to go for a long car ride. I want to go to an indigenous, in my case, MHA Nation in North Dakota. They're Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara. They're Native American Plains Indians in North Dakota. They have the reservation out there. They're improving their tourism effort. And so now they got people coming from, what was it, Italy, France, and Germany. So they could showcase their culture, how to build a teepee. Here's my dance. Here are the buffalo. Here's our sacred, river. Here's our home. Here's an earth lodge. Their tourism effort is to showcase their world, and it's in North Dakota. So that's the bet that like people, can still go and travel in America, but you could hang out in North Dakota for a week with the buffalo and learn how and sleep in a teepee. Like that to me is transformational. You've learned something, you appreciate something, you're aware of something, and you're out in the wilderness. It's so cool. So that's a transformational travel. I think you didn't see much of that even 6, 7 years ago. I think we're in a kind of a change point now. Well, people want different and more satisfying experiences for self.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. With the rise of rival, in fact, no, not that one. As an author preparing to release a book in 2024, how do you how do you anticipate the current culture and global climate will impact the reception of your travel adventure memoir?
So I think you're asking me the global climate right now, is that going to receive my book well? Is that the
Yes,
question? I think so. I think so because everyone's interested in plant medicines and psychedelics now.
yes, that's
And this
true.
this is the story of transformation for me. It's my own personal memoir of travel adventure, but it's the same as your story. It's all interconnected. It's an exploration of how all these seemingly, mutually exclusive, countries, experiences somehow have a connection point that's spiritual and really profound. That's my story. And then coming home to a world that's changed. That's coronavirus, New York City, 2020. So yeah, I mean, it's really I think the global temperature right now, fracturing, lots of fracturing going on, right? Lots of fighting, lots of fracturing, lots of polarization. But I think that's growth. When what is it? Like when the caterpillar's in its cocoon, it's like breaking apart, and growing and fracturing. That's growth. We're growing. We're finally putting our foot down. We're probably looking in the mirror and saying, no more. I don't want to put up with this anymore. I don't agree with this. This doesn't feel right. And then with the fighting, then you come together and say, okay, I can see how do we come together and move forward with peace. So I think you need the struggle, right? The bird struggles and then egg and then it pops out. So I think that's what's happening. And I think people, plant medicines aren't for everybody. Psychedelics aren't for everybody from a trauma and like a healing standpoint, but it's for some people. And some people are curious. And like I said, the stigma's going away. It's becoming decriminalized left and right. The plants will find a way to you one way or the other. Like that, weed grows in the concrete. The plants will find a way to us one way or the other. You can't suppress it. And so, our consciousness, we're evolving our consciousness. I mean, even just 300 years ago, we were different people consciously. I mean, I think it has a lot to do with this interconnectivity too. You know, we're thinking differently because we're in the phone, and people say, "Oh, we're on phones all day. We're not, we're so antisocial." No, we're not. We're learning how to talk. Look at me talking with you virtually. We're still finding a way, just like the plants are finding a way. We're finding a way for community in a different, I mean, things are changing one way or the other, whether we like it or not. The connection to self can come through plants and spirituality, right? And so I think my story is going to be very relevant given today's climate, global climate.
I think it's always a niche for everything. So I think people actually read it, and like you said, it's people more interested in stuff like psychedelics and stuff like that. Um, I was talking to somebody recently, and I was saying how the red pill community is dying out. Like people don't really want to hear that red pill stuff no more. People more into like herbal supplements, exercise. You see a lot of TikTok videos with people in gyms. You see a lot of cooking TikToks. You see a lot of people talking about what we're talking about now: ayahuasca, monuments, religion, culture. So this stuff is more prevalent than talking about somebody's body count or do somebody bring something to the table.
I agree with you. I mean, it's not for everybody, and everyone's on different paths, right? We're all on like we're not all on the same, kind of line here, like, like in a race. We start from different starting points and we're going along different points of this path. So some people may never get there, and that's maybe them given, what their kind of state of affairs are in their life and what they wish for their life. And some people may be on a massive trajectory in a very fast pace. And some people may just be slow and steady like a turtle. So everyone's at different paces. And, at the end of the day, we're on this earth to experience things and character grow for ourselves.
Yes,
And my story is different than your story is different from someone else's. We all have different experiences.
yes, and deal with them differently too.
Correct.
With the rise of virtual reality experience, do you see them complementing or challenging the essence of physical travel in adventure?
That's a great question. I tried. I'd love to do virtual experience. I mean, well, let's put a step back. Um, we're in a hologram anyway, so it is a virtual experience if you agree to that. Life is a hologram. So we're our own virtual experience now. I tried to do the 360-degree camera when I went up to Kilimanjaro, and for whatever reason it didn't work. The elements, the high altitude sometimes screws with the batteries. So I didn't get a chance to do that. Yeah, and at that point I was thinking, virtual reality would be a cool way to travel blog. You just need the equipment to figure out how to like, tape it, record it and get it into the software. Yeah, I think that's cool. It's an element of travel, but you can't substitute for the real thing.
Yes.
And what is real, I guess, is the real question. If you're talking about the red pill, blue pill matrix, what is real? It's all an illusion, man.
um, it's funny that you mentioned that like traveling, seeing like the camera, all that. In New York, they got a, a, a I forgot what it's called, but basically it's one of the buildings in Manhattan, and basically it's like you floating around the city. So you see a whole New York,
Oh,
even though you're
neat.
not going nowhere. It's like you flying around New York inside like how you see it on Willy Wonka. And also One World Trade. There's a restaurant called the Observatory. It's called the
Uh-huh.
Observatory. It's a restaurant up there. I think you probably look at minus scopes. If you get in the elevator, it's the same thing. You basically see the outside. So basically you're going down, but it's like you traveling around the building or you looking from the building. It's very
Wow.
amazing. I said I didn't know the elevator do this, and it was very amazing.
That is cool. Yeah, that's sort of like the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, the tallest structure, man-made structure in the world. It's a skyscraper. And when you get in the elevator, it has that virtual reality as you're going up because there's no windows. You're all enclosed in darkness, but the whole thing lights up like the sphere in Vegas, the like jumbotron, but within the elevator. Same thing. It's giving you the history and the build of Burj Khalifa. And then you're up there and you're like, oh my God, like it doesn't seem real. It's so high. You're like, this is like you're from an airplane. That's how high up you are.
It's crazy how that little point adds to the height. Really, it's just a point. You can't go up it, you can't climb up it or nothing. It's just a long line just to make up height. I find that amazing that people find that um, suitable for the
It's
state.
phallic. It's a phallic symbol, man. It's like it's all ego.
Like
But
selling
I think it's Riyadh or Jeddah, one or the other in Saudi Arabia. They're now apparently, well, I was in Dubai a while ago, but we were told that Saudi Arabia is now trying to one up the Burj Khalifa and build a skyscraper taller than Burj Khalifa. So they're fighting each other with the
Yeah.
skyscrapers.
Selling air rights is crazy. Like, how can you sell an air?
I know, it's crazy. You're right. How do you feel? Again, these are truths that we all should have just for free, like solar, wind, water, air.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You gotta pay for water. A bottle of water is $1. Some water is $5. Like what's called essential in Fuji. And Fuji is nasty. um, give me your background in renewable energy. How do you see the travel industry evolving to become more suitable in the coming years?
Well, I mean, that's the other part of transformational travel, like your eco footprint, to travel, like the boats that, like for instance, cruise ships are very, very dirty. They take your garbage that you have on the cruise ship, and when they're in international waters, they chop it up in little pieces and they throw it in the water. You can't police that. And they're not supposed to do it, but they're doing it. They're polluting the waters. Cruise ships have 5,000 people on. It's a floating city. And then think about all that like oil that gets into the water because it moves on diesel. It's a diesel ship. So cruise ships are dirty. Airplanes obviously are dirty. Just walking up a mountain is dirty. There's so much toilet paper and people, that
Or
like Napoleon climbing Mount Everest, there's dead bodies
yeah,
along the way.
I know that. Yeah,
Well, it's true. So there's litter. I mean, if you can call it that, there's just everything is there along the way. And, so you're destroying in that sense sacred places. Even these volcanoes in Hawaii are sacred and they put telescopes on top. So, there's an element of travel that impacts the environment for sure. Um, I think how it changes. Well, I think more of us need to get out there first to appreciate it. That's number one. And I think when you're on a cruise ship, you don't necessarily appreciate it because you're indoors all day, right? You're eating a buffet, you're drinking your alcohol, you're on the water slide. You don't see the impact it has. But I think if we do transformational trips and we're out there in the nature and we're interacting with the locals and we're seeing how things are kind of like being respected and not always respected. Sometimes the locals are worse, like there's a lot of plastic that's in rivers and in the oceans. Like the Philippines is one of the big offenders of putting trash in the ocean. So yeah, not all countries got it figured out. Some are worse than others, and you happen to travel there. So I think what travel does is it opens your eyes. It takes the blinders off. Because what we think we know from the United States perspective is not what actually is when you're overseas. The media, has a slant to it. It's not easy to kind of capture, and people just it doesn't it's not fear, right? Fear sells with the media. So in your case, when you go out there to see it for yourself, you start to appreciate what you have at home, but also what's abroad. And I think that's where the sharing of knowledge can go, where you could bring home, well, they're doing it this way. Like for instance, Myanmar. I went to Myanmar. It's the old country formerly known as Burma. And Burma was under a political control for 50 years, closed off to the world, similar to North Korea. And they're trending back to that way again. But they opened up in the 90s, or I think it was the early 2000s into the 2010s. So we went there, I think 2015. And they were kind of lost in time. And they're very coal dependent, coal, as their fuel for power. And we were on the Irrawaddy River. We could see this like boat, the flat coal boat, flatbed boat with coal, putting on the river. And because it's a impoverished country in some ways, a kind of a country that hasn't really grown in the way, let's say, Japan has, it's still stuck in its old ways, coal, right? And that's how their grids are built, their electric grids. However, we go to Inle Lake, which is this huge lake in Myanmar, and they build these one home, kind of like, I don't know, they're built out of like wood or something, and they're on stilts. So people live in this like one room kind of home on stilts on the lake. And those homes have solar panels on them. So I think travel shows us that how people live. And travel shows us that, things aren't always better abroad. Things are good here where we live, and it's a give and take. And so I think that's the beginning, just as we talked about earlier, with like the first step you take. Something is off, but you don't know how to fix it. So let me just adventure and explore and learn and understand. And the more and more we come together as a community, the better we can impact and make change. So I also think that the airlines are starting to get the hint. My field of renewable energy, a lot of what we were looking to fund were kind of next generation fuels. And these next generation fuels were, predicated on, bio. So like, various sort of grasses and other sort of feeds that, again, it may not be the best answer, but they're exploring different algae is another example. It's green, it's bio, but algae can have the same synthetic properties as oil if you look at it on a microscope. So that could be used. And the US Army, the US Navy, the government, the military is exploring all these options. The airlines are exploring it. The airlines also have I guess carbon credits. So what they do is in order for them to continue to fly their planes, they'll have to buy carbon offset credits. And some of those credits are being sold if you own, let's say, a swath of like forests in, let's say, North Pacific Northwest in Oregon. And instead of using it for lumber, you can use it for carbon credits. So I will now sell my credits because my trees are growing and I'm going to keep them preserved as trees, taking in carbon dioxide and putting in oxygen. Instead of cutting that tree down, I'm going to sell off ongoing carbon credits to the airlines. So there's a market. See, we talk about capitalism now. There's a market now that we've created. My trees are going to support the airline, so it's an offset. And the same goes for what was I saying earlier about this, about offsets? Oh, with the sharks.
Yes.
So you're seeing a lot of these countries setting up shark sanctuaries and protected waters. Like Cocos Island in Costa Rica is protected. Chile, Easter Island, has one of the largest sanctuaries in all of the world. Palau, which is a small country off the Philippines, the islands of the Philippines, we flew 30 hours to go to Palau just to swim with sharks because tourism, ecotourism knows that a shark in the water is worth more to my travel economy than it is fished out into the fish market. It's an ongoing benefit that keeps renewing in terms of opportunity, in terms of, revenue. It's I can go scuba diving now and swim with all these sharks because I'm in a sanctuary because they're protecting the reefs. And so that's bringing me halfway around the world to go to this tiny little country that's called Palau, which is like Delaware, right? Delaware is the smallest country, or sorry, state in the United States. Yet Delaware has a great economy because everyone incorporates in Delaware. So,
Mhm.
right? It
Yes.
doesn't matter how small you are, how smart you are. How do you get revenue to a small country or a small state? If you build it, they will come. If you honor it and protect it, it will come. And so I think to answer your question, it's these sort of experiences. It's stop killing the sharks, stop cutting down your trees, and use it as an ongoing renewable source for revenue.
Yes.
That's capitalism, eco-capitalism.
That's
Not all
definitely.
capitalism's bad. Take it from me.
It's in the age of information overload. How do you curate and share authentic travel experiences that stands out amidst the abundance of online content? But before you answer that though, the mountains thing, like I did not know that. I never thought about that. I knew about the bodies, but I never knew, like, it makes sense now. Like, where people gonna use the bathroom at? Where people gonna put their trash at? Are they carrying the trash back down with them? Or they
Have
carrying it up with them? They kept that down with them?
you
Or they
should.
tossing it down? Like,
No, you should carry your trash. Like that's kind of an unspoken rule, but I'm an offender. Like sometimes, if I have to pee, I'll just leave the like the the tissue. I mean, right? I mean that's biodegradable, but it's less about the tissue, it's more about the human waste that, can disrupt the environment, especially if you have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of hikers in the same area.
yes, it's crazy. In the age of information overload, how do you curate and share authentic travel experiences that stands out amidst the abundance of online content?
Yeah, it's a great question. I wish I knew the answer. I think it's heartfelt. It's making connections because I could talk till I'm blue in the face, but if you don't trust me, if you don't believe I can execute, which I'm still not doing it. I still haven't really formally opened trips up for people yet. It may happen down the line, but for me right now, it's just my experience through my lens. I think in order to do that, you have to cultivate trust and connection, right? I think people want to know that I am a good person, know that I mean what I say, I'm not full of shit. I think it's hard to kind of in this day and age, right? We see all these, it's all fake, some of this stuff, It's like, I don't know if I really believe this. It's more than meets the eye. So I think it's authenticity. That's the word of the year, right? That was the word of the year is authenticity for this year. So, and I think that's partly why Hollywood's going through its own, fracturing because there's no authenticity in Hollywood anymore. People
Yes,
actors are actors because they're paid liars, if you think about it.
yes.
They get awards for being the best liar. So, okay, yeah, it's one thing to have the experience through a film. It's another for it being inauthentic and programmed and, manufactured and just not, there's no kind of feeling there to it. It's just kind of, it's programmatic. It's same with music, right? Music sometimes just isn't working.
I was just about to say music too. Like it's
Yeah.
liars. Like these people haven't really sold drugs. These people probably grew up in a suburb somewhere. There are songs that are real. Like remember the song? I'm not gonna write you a love song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
song. She wrote that song because the um the label wanted her to write a love song. And
Oh.
so instead of her writing a love song, she wrote the chorus. I'm not gonna write you a love song, and why. So some music are true, but a lot of it, like you said, actors.
Yeah. There because this is what I was saying before, like as a speaker, I don't want to tell the audience what I think it needs to hear, right? I'm going to speak from the heart because it's my own story and whether it resonates or not, that's on you and that's okay. And that's what art is. It's Rick Rubin. Speaking of music, you're familiar with Rick Rubin, right? Yeah, cool dude. He's from New York City, I think, or Long Island into New York. He was on a bunch of podcasts and I just loved what he had to say. He's so wise. There's such a wisdom, like an authentic wisdom about him. And his message was the same thing about artists, your artistry. You do it for you. You do it for you. You make music for you, or you make writing for you, or you do it for you. And if it resonates with others, great. But you just keep showing up. That's what it is at the end of the day. You just keep showing up and keep doing and believe in yourself. Even if you have one fan, that fan likes it. Okay, great. But I'm doing it for me.
Yes, you're so right about that. I wanted to give up 17 times doing the podcast because the travel tribulations, but I just figured I just straight through, and really, really it was y'all. On my interviews for the past 2 weeks, 'cause I was gonna give up. I was gonna give up, but the interviews just kept coming. Even though I didn't post no more ads, the old ads, people was seeing them, writing me, and I'm like, I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna continue, and I just do it myself the best way I can, put one foot forward.
Good for you. I'm really happy. That's awesome. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for doing this for me.
Of course.
I have two questions left. One is back on eco tourism, and I'm cool with one more question, and then we can get out of here. Okay. So with the increased popularity of tourism, how can renters ensure they leave a positive impact on the environment they explore?
Well, that's a interesting question. And again, the Transformational Travel Council experience I had this past week, um, it it's interesting because I kept challenging the word regenerative. Have you heard that term, regenerative? You
Yes.
have. Yeah, I heard it just recently, so I wasn't even sure what the heck they were talking about. I'm like, it's just a buzzword about farming. What are we talking about? I was kind of like pretty direct on this like Zoom call with everybody. My curmudgeon New Yorker and me. I'm like, what is this? And then someone explained it to me. Regenerative means it's not just farming, it's all parties involved have a common goal of coming together and doing no harm. So I think that's the question you're asking, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the onus on the tourist. Again, remember I said sometimes I'm going to places that are actually like, what the heck are you guys doing locally to your own community? Like, it's not my fault. I'm just here looking at this stuff. I didn't do it. You guys are the offenders of your own home. You
Yes.
know, so it's I'm not the big bad tourist in this example. And that's regenerative, right? Like it's reciprocity. It's all of us together. It's the local tourist or the local tourism person. It's the workers that, are providing the services for tourists, like, cleaning the rooms and cooking and all part of the hospitality piece. But at the same time, it's me being a respectful, guest in a country that's not mine. So it goes both ways. It goes all ways because there's lots of parties involved. So regenerative tourism is really what the idea is how do we all collectively ensure that this is for the greater good of all, and especially for the area we're visiting. And I hope that this is something that we could figure out together. Because again, it's the example of the shark, right? If it's a one-off short-term benefit, there is no long-term benefit at the end of the day. But if you keep fishing that shark, if you don't fish that shark out, there's that long-term benefit. And that's regenerative because people now locally respect the shark and they respect their environment. Okay. And then someone like me who's like, oh, cool, I'm a scuba diver. This is like high on my list of places I want to see around the world. And it is. Like they grew Palau to be a scuba destination. It's a beautiful place. It's definitely a must see for scuba divers because it's a beautiful place to see underwater. So that's regenerative. We all are here for the common good. Like this is gonna be great. And I'd like to leave it as I left it before I got here so someone else can enjoy it just like I did.
Um, I don't know what it's called. I'm gonna see if you know. If you don't, I'll Google it. Um, the coral reef that's is a man-made. People build stuff down. They own structures down there. You seen that?
Yeah, they do that in the Florida Keys. Like they take the subway cars from New York and they put them down to make, excuse me, coral. Like it's like man-made,
Yes.
coral. So the coral can start to grow on top of it. They also do that, I think, in Mexico, like near I think it's near Cozumel or Cancun, one or the other. Like they have statues underwater. And they also used to have a quarry in Pennsylvania. It's since closed. It's called Dutch Springs. That's where a lot of people got scuba certified. And in this quarry is fresh water. They used to throw like school buses down there and like planes. And then you go scuba. Yeah, it was cold, that water. Very cold.
Tourism is different. That's my last question. Then we can conclude. Can you share a funny, unexpected moment from your travels that wasn't necessarily Instagram worthy, but made for a great story?
Oh man, there's so many funny stories. I just was on a podcast recently um that they wanted when animals attack stories. And I'll repeat this one here because I got a snap of it on my phone, but it's not really on Instagram. Uh this was a funny story because we were in Myanmar, as I mentioned, and we were at this place called Mount Popa, which is this old volcano that eroded away, and the magma that like hardened is still a dome that is still like is still visible. And they have a temple on the top of this dome, and there's everything's flat around it. So it's this thing pointing out of nowhere and flat land. And so they worship nat spirits, which are spirits of the natural world. So they believe that spirits live in embody the trees and the rocks and everywhere else, animals. And there's 777 steps that we have to climb barefoot to get to these temples that worship the nat spirits. And so we went, and these macaque monkeys from the wherever forests have learned to come here because the tourists give them food. But they're still wild monkeys. They're aggressive. They're bad. Monkeys are bad. That's another fun thing. When you travel the world and you start seeing monkeys, you're like, these guys are such brats. Like, they're bad. They'll steal things, they'll attack you. Like, they're bad news, man. Get this monkey away from me. They're so fun. And so here we are climbing these stairs, and we get to the top, and there was this big old monkey sitting down, like minding its own business, didn't want to be bothered, but I was trying to like, oh, look, a monkey. And it lunged at me. It lunged and it had its fangs. And it was like, ah. And I shoved my brother in front of the monkey. I was like, ah. Yeah, it was bad. So yeah, unfortunately my brother didn't get injured, but the monkey was like trying to show dominance, and I shoved my brother from. And on the way back down, we're walking, and my brother has a water bottle in his hand with the top on, and we're walking down the stairs, and there's a railing, and it's covered. It's sort of like an eave of a roof, and there's, I guess, a monkey that was like spying on us in above us, and jumped onto my brother's arm, you know, hissed at him, went, and my brother's like, whoa, took his two little monkey hands and grabbed the water bottle, leapt back up to where it was, unscrewed the cap, threw it back at us. It literally threw the cap at us and went like this and started drinking the water. And we're like, oh my God, that monkey stole your water. And then my brother, in his fear, like, what? He went, Jesus. And I went, no, 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 you have to say Buddha. We're in a Buddhist country. So that was my story. I told that on another podcast, but
That's very funny. That's very funny. Like I never heard a story about that with monkeys, but I heard ones with seagulls. Seagulls snatching the people food or at their hand, or even eating animals like squirrels. Like that's crazy.
oh my God, really? Seagulls eat squirrels?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
chickens eat birds too. Chickens eat everything. They eat mice.
I didn't know that. That's crazy. I know they
Yeah,
eat poop. You know, that's
chickens
why when people talk about pork and seafood, I say you eat chicken. No, it's not a clean animal either.
chickens are clean.
Thank you for joining me again on the Comfort Truth podcast. I really appreciate you.
I
Um,
appreciate you.
you got any last words?
I don't. Just be emboldened. Emboldenadventures.com. It was a pleasure. I enjoyed the conversation. Oh, and we'll connect offline.
That's definitely you see we've been talking for over 2.5 hours, right?
I know. I have my Dunkin' Donuts coffee I've been trying to drink, but I don't want to put it on camera. I'm like, come on, I want to drink the coffee.
This is my second interview today, and it was my best interview. I had the most fun. I've been laughing. My cheeks hurt right now.
Good. Well, I enjoyed it. Really nice to meet you. I hope if we, cross paths in New York, I'd love to see you in person, say hi.
Definitely, definitely. So let's get through. Thank you for watching the Uncomfortable Truth podcast with my guests from Embolden Adventures.
Sara Roccisano from Embolden Adventures.
Please like, share, and comment, and please follow my friend. You also will see a description of all her escapades. Her website, her Instagram, Facebook will all be in the description. Thank you again. Thank you again, Sarah. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Bye now.
Bye.